Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
3 seconds. He has it blocked. This game, this series is over. Edmonton's heading to the Stanley Cup final.
And now Josh Hader in the ninth. Buxton getting into one deep to center field. Myers back, and he makes an incredible catch against the wall. Jake Myers.
Jake swings a drive from the air to left. O'Neal back to the track, to the wall. We are tied no more. The Gabe Swanson party continues in Stillwater. His second homer of the regional, and Nebraska has their first lead, 5-4 in the fifth.
Hello, squeeze play, and this ball's lifted deep to center field. Groves is back, and it's gone. Leadoff home run for Gabe Swanson. Put us on squeeze play. Somebody goes yard.
Always someone that bats well, didn't pitch or play defense, and a team like Florida is going to expose that. And we poured it all out there, though. I mean, I'm not no regrets about this game, how it went. Obviously, want to be on the right side of it, but we competed our tails off the whole time we were out there. These guys did it together. They're a championship ball club for a reason. That's because they got heart and toughness, and they love each other. And, I'll forever be grateful for this 2024 team.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can check out the podcast, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, wherever else you get your podcast. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. What's going on, man?
What up? You brought the T word in, so I
tune in.
Yeah,
you started to tune in.
Yeah, I added that one to Benning Bites the other day because I remembered that you said it, and I was like, "Oh wait, that's a new one that I never used before."
Look at you learning, adapting.
Well, it starts with listening. That's kind of foreign.
Some people.
I give that. Boy, you're not kidding. Ooh-wee. I give that the old thumbs up from a listening standpoint. But yeah, it's nice and cool in here the way I like it.
It is, yeah. When it gets muggy in here, it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, and there was quite a bit of moisture in the air.
Yeah, I got dripped on coming into the building.
Yeah, I was wondering what you're looking at. I thought a bird may have gotten you.
I'd probably be okay with a bird.
Wow, bird defecation.
Oh, I thought you meant like a bird was up.
I was about
there.
to say less than water.
No, I didn't. I know what you meant by gotcha.
Oh,
I thought you meant because how some people are afraid of birds.
Yeah,
I'm not really like that.
I figured out Saturday night we have bats.
Yeah,
they're flying in the air.
They're supposed to be good for something. I can't remember.
Mosquitoes.
What. Yeah, they eat mosquitoes.
Yeah,
so that's something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Not messing around with bats.
I mean, they're fine. They don't like me, so it's cool. But
they don't like you. You guys have a history.
No, I mean they don't come.
Freaking bats.
They don't come near me, so I'm fine. But I could see them snatch things out of the air, and they make a lot of random weird noises.
They do have a very distinct noise.
Yeah,
that's all right.
I was like, oh, that's new. Lock up the old chimney.
Just floating around the neighborhood.
Yeah, chilling.
Yeah, that's all right.
I don't know. Is this going to be one of those things where, like in sci-fi movies, where you have an excess amount of something, then like a couple weeks or months later, you get these weird manifestations of stuff? Like since the moisture, we're going to be like overgrown by ticks and bats. And what else? What else do we have to worry about when you get a lot of water?
Mold's an issue.
So will we be the story of it like sci-fi? Because I feel like we've got a lot of moisture lately.
Yeah, not a lot of time. I hope not.
We have like sharks in our grass.
No. This is how Sharknado happened.
Yeah, I never really sat through that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Listen,
that seems
right
up
here. That seems right up here. Oh, I think it's more than that.
Is it?
I think they've made a lot of those movies.
It's amazing.
That seems right up your alley. You love sharks.
Yeah, I don't like fake CGI swimming or flying in the air. I've seen a lot of bad CGI underwater movies.
You're a big fan of the
Anaconda, Crocodile,
you like a lot of B movies. I'm surprised it's not like.
But that CGI is out of control.
I'm gonna see how many Sharknadoes.
I watched the Spider movie the other night, super late, of course, and it had the guy that was Bull Shannon on Night Court.
Okay.
And they were on a submarine, and like there was like this manifestation of mutant spiders.
That guy actually fit in the submarine.
It's pretty dumb. He had hair too.
Wow.
He's like a creeper scientist doctor guy.
They stopped at 6 Sharknadoes.
Did they?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, that's awesome.
I thought it might be like a Land Before Time situation where there was like a dozen of them.
So it's weird that you brought up Land Before Time because do you get the marketing on your streaming service?
No.
Okay.
I don't have children.
There's 12 in a row, and they're all Land Before Times.
Yeah.
I'll send you. That's unbelievable that you said that.
That was the original. Was like a go-to. It was a staple of my childhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Were you the little green thing with the horn? Which one was your favorite?
I didn't like Sarah. She wasn't my favorite.
I don't know the names, so
she was the Triceratops. I liked.
Is she the nosy one?
Yeah, she was kind of bossy, and no, I like Ducky. Like
which one was he?
The little. It was the little dude. I don't know. It was Ducky. Kind of the one with like the squeaky voice.
Yeah. I like turtles.
Me too.
You do like turtles.
I do. Our science. There's a teacher at Westside giving away a lizard. I contemplated it.
What do you need? You don't need a lizard. Come on, man. What are we doing?
Zoe likes pets. I just want to know if they smell. Like if they smell, they're out.
I don't think so.
But like I could, be no problem to feed them. I don't want them out because dogs may.
Yeah, no, they have a little snack.
No, I don't think my dogs would eat lizards. Do you?
I'm pretty sure they would eat the lizard.
Well, Biggie barely has teeth.
Maybe not on purpose. Like they may not eat the lizard, but they would kill the lizard investigating it. That's my assumption.
They're not attack dogs.
Like if it was no, but they'd like kind of try and mess around with it, and then like dogs put stuff in their mouths, and then they accidentally they maybe chew on it a little more than they're supposed to.
Got him!
That lizard's not having a good day.
Not making it.
If he's like a free range lizard at your house, no sir.
Free range. Certainly not wild caught. No farm raised.
No, it's a grass fed free range lizard.
I had some grass-fed butter the other day. Knockoff version. Our favorite brand that we were just talking about off air.
Oh, yeah?
Kirkland.
Yeah, they do the knockoff Kerrygold.
Yep.
Yeah. That stuff's money.
It is. I cook in it all the days.
All the days?
All the days.
I know you were rocking some, you had some steaks you were rocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start digging into those yet?
Yeah. Probably had 31 this weekend, maybe 32.
That's an aggressive amount.
No, probably safely.
Yeah.
Like no cap.
Yeah.
7.
Look at you talking like one of the kids. No cap.
7.
That's a lot of steaks. Just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I made some like Brett and Leah were in town.
Not sharing with anybody?
I thought about it, but I wasn't home in enough time. All these new people in Lincoln. So I had a recruit ask for an air fryer. Is that weird?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if they're allowed to have them in their rooms.
They're not recruits, a player. Yes.
If they're allowed to have them in their rooms, that makes
I'm pretty sure.
sense.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't really do the whole, like, obviously, weren't doing the room thing.
That's a beautiful question.
But Prude asked for an air fryer.
Mm-hmm.
And he must have, like, I don't know him from Adam.
Yeah.
Not our Adam, but a different Adam.
He probably just was like, that's
the guy. No, they met. It was on a visit.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You don't just have, like, the vibe, like, that's a guy that knows how to get things?
So I have some air fryers. But I don't know if I would, like, go back home and then bring one back down.
I thought you were, like, maybe, like, Red and Shawshank, where you're just like, that man knows how to get things.
No, that I could definitely do. I wanted to time the distance between Hy-Vees and Lincoln.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but I
why would you want to do that?
Because I just don't know if 48th and 0 or 52nd and 0 is, like, the closest. But it's got to be closer than 14th and Superior.
You know what you can do.
I know, but it's doing too much.
Like
I listen.
it,
only if little brain capacity. That was over the bandwidth.
So it's easier in your mind to drive them both.
I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. Like, I didn't want to.
Sometimes you want to do stuff old school.
Probably not dry, but I'm kind of with you though.
Sometimes.
I'd rather make eggs and put them in a microwave.
Well, that's just like good versus bad.
Do you not watch TikTok? People do like these immaculate eggs in the microwave now.
I understand that, but it's better if you cook them.
I have a microwavable dish that's supposed to get me like the McMuffin type.
I mean, I've microwaved eggs all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't cook anything else. Like outside of a microwave, I don't cook.
I got a new method for my sunny side up eggs.
Yeah.
So you don't get like the little clear snot.
Yeah. It's not great.
No. But I don't always want to flip them over either.
Mm.
So you don't have that, or like skirt the little oil up there. I'll put the oven on like 250.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in my deal and put a lid on them.
Mm.
It's about 7 minutes, and they're perfect. They're perfect. No brown. It's incredible. A little bacon up in there. It's incredible.
Toss a little bacon up in there.
Yeah.
I
like it. They're perfect.
See,
little pepper.
That's a whole different deal than like microwaving
eggs.
That's
pretty low maintenance.
That's not bad. But I mean, like microwaving eggs versus making them is different than driving someplace versus GPSing it.
Yeah.
To get a time.
By the way, I did I show you the dough that I did for the flatbread?
No, you're telling me about it though.
Yeah. So I can't figure out how to get it off the parchment paper. I'm doing something wrong with the consistency.
So it's sticking to the paper?
Yes, but the taste is incredible.
What is it made out of?
Cup of cottage cheese, cup and a half of cottage cheese.
Okay.
The first batch I used 2 eggs. The second batch I just used 1.
Okay.
And seasoning. I can season. I can put whatever.
What kind of texture does that give you?
Amazing.
Well, that's not real descriptive here.
So I guess I would liken it to, I don't know, like maybe just short of a folded egg, like the eggs at the yellow eggs at McDonald's.
Okay.
Kind of that texture. It's certainly not flatbready.
That doesn't sound appealing to me at all.
God, it was amazing, Robbie.
Well, I mean, you know me. Whenever I get I usually ditch the egg on the breakfast sandwich.
I know, which is one of the
consistency gets weird for me. I'm not a huge fan.
It takes you 55 minutes to eat a 1 minute sandwich.
Well, that's fair, but we're kind of doing a radio show at the same time. So
I've worked with some guys. They just eat. By the way, he made my mom a charcuterie board this weekend because he took his mom over to my mom's house. So she has a friend.
Oh, that's nice.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
I'm trying to show you this picture of the eggs.
I do like a good charcuterie board.
You can't really. This has to look good to you, doesn't it? This is scintillating radio. I know.
That does not look good to me.
You're a hater.
No, I'm okay.
I cut it in half. It was delicious. Are you serious?
Pass.
God, I can't stand you. Shane wants to see it. Shane, I'll put it on Twitter for you, bud. Shane wants to get out of his little birdhouse.
Shane's going to stop producing the show.
Does this not look fantastic?
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
See?
Shane, what do you know?
Maybe I should do one of your rigged Twitter polls and ask the question all leading. Maybe I should do that.
I asked the question in the funniest way possible.
Yeah.
That was my only goal.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to do that.
Great. So I saw a couple of, and so I thought about you again, because you know how you lamented over Nadal?
Oh,
kind of like an end of an era.
Yeah.
I felt like we saw that in the fight game too this weekend.
With Wilder?
And probably Poirier.
Yeah.
I mean, couple of great,
had really, really good stretches.
How fat does it not seem like Wilder just started boxing last year?
Yeah. I mean,
he was super late to the game.
He was. Because I don't think he started till like his
32, maybe
early 30s. Yeah. Is when he when he kind of came on the national scene.
My man was, I'm going to butcher this.
40-0.
No, he was 40-0.
Yeah.
With 39 knockouts and went 3-4 and 1 in his last 8.
And I think that's going to be lights out for.
Can you believe that? 40-0 with 39 knockouts and went 3-4 and 1 in his last 8. That's a little Tyson-y.
Yeah, it really is. He still has all but one of his wins by knockout, but
so he's got 43 total. So that makes him 43-4 and 1.
Yep.
Because he's got the 2 to Fury, 1 to Parker, and then
to Zhang.
Zhang just got him.
Yeah.
which was a bizarro knockout.
Yeah.
What did Wilder think happened to him when he caught the first hook? Because what was he going to say to the official?
I don't know. That's like how you know guys are super dazed.
He looked at him like he was going to say something. He just got buddy whacketed,
Yeah.
buddy hacketed, buddy whacketed, buddy whacked again.
That's like it kind of like when you see guys in the ring do super bizarre stuff, like you know they're more dinged than they appear to be, right?
Had you ever gotten the sense that Wilder's legs were the width of this pen?
Not. I feel like he's gotten skinnier. Am I wrong?
Do you know what he weighed in?
214.
I think he was 218.4, or was it 214.8?
I thought he was a 214, but there was almost a 70-pound difference between.
It was incredible.
And he's 6'7". He's not little.
I know. He's like a rare. He looks starched.
I'll say he didn't used to look this skinny, did he?
No.
Like I thought he used to fight around like 230.
He looked absolutely starched.
Yeah, I don't know what was. I mean,
you should have seen me. I was doing the. I think you wouldn't have listened to her because
tone of voice.
No, let's just say because of your age. But there was this singer. Her name was Shanice.
Okay.
And she would sing this. She sang this song called "Silent Prayer." I sing to you my silent prayer. Anyway, that's what I was doing during the Poirier match with Makhachev, because
you're really hoping,
man.
You and B. Edwards both, man.
He's such a great ambassador. I love him.
So Wilder won his first title in 2015. So he'd have been 28.
Is that what it is? No, no.
He was born in 85, so he'd have been 30. He was 30 when he won his first title.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Late bloomer.
He was. He didn't get into it until late because he played football, I think.
Yeah, well, remember, he had to make money for his daughter.
Yeah, I did like him, but,
I did not. I've never liked him.
I know. Well, you're a hater. It's fine.
He just can't box.
He can hit, though.
Man,
can he hit?
Yeah, and the UFC card was so bad.
Yeah.
It was buns.
I will say there's like it's kind of like how people do with athletes and just guys that are freak athletes in football or basketball where they kind of like become enamored over them even. And I don't do this in basketball because I've learned, but I haven't learned enough in boxing to get away from it. The guys that have this incredible talent that you just kind of, you're like, oh man, if he ever learned like X, Y, and Z, or if he ever did. Yeah, and like you get to the point where you know he's not going to do that, but you're still sort of enamored by the talent anyway. That's how I was with Wilder.
I almost allowed myself to be like that with a guy I can't stand until they cheated and said that he beat De La Hoya. I almost fell into the one trick pony show with Felix Trinidad.
Oh.
Almost. But I came to my senses.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy that I went just the other way as his boxing game elevated. I used to not like Miguel Cotto, but as he got older
I liked Cotto.
and got with better trainers and diversified a little bit, I was a big Cotto guy. I especially liked him coming back to spank Margarito after Margarito cheated with the loaded gloves.
With the hand wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I started liking him before that, but that really kind of like changed because I as much as I enjoy or joke about like performance enhancing drugs or whatever, and like if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Like boxing's different because you'll kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like don't mess around with it in boxing. Like no steroids in boxing. Like knock it off.
It's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Like I feel like it's fair, but like, hey, I'm cool with it in baseball because I just want to see balls hit about 550 feet. Right? Let's not do it in where your goal is to borderline kill someone anyway. Like, let's not add in
plastered wraps.
Yeah, let's not add in an element of additional danger there.
Yeah,
that seems like a bad idea.
So that was my Ravi.
You're like
thought process.
Your Felix Trinidad moment.
It's like, well, what would Ravi think? WWRT. Isn't that what the bracelets say?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Is it something like that?
Yeah, I think it's in the neighborhood.
WWRT.
Yeah.
And then the other time was when I just was engrossed all other week. See, I watched a lot of television.
Yeah.
I mean, a ton.
Yeah.
Of just college baseball and how people cannot go to their bullpens.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
There's none of them.
It,
in the entire country.
It's so like you almost hope your team's not winning late because you're like, how are they going to keep them from scoring?
Yeah, and look at the numbers of the guys that they trot in, and they're like, oh, this is one of their elite guys with a 5.9 ERA.
Dude, and it's funny because we talked about Coppola, 0-4, he only had 6 starts, ERA in the 6s, and it's like
shuts them down.
Well, kind of. They were barreling up so many balls early. I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. But then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a minute. This is everything I didn't want on the show on Friday. Like, I just did not want to get into – everybody talked about their pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say it let them down when they score 17 runs. But it was a weird game. I just don't think Nebraska has the capability to outslug teams.
No, they certainly don't, even with Swanson going nuts.
And they didn't pick it very clean either.
No. But it's
I wonder what happens if they make the play on the sliding catch in left field. I really do, because that was very makeable. It hit him in the heel. And I always hate those. When you dive, when you're going forward, and I always say fingers up, those are tough. I'd rather go down,
Yeah.
But
it's hard to get.
He's not a natural left fielder.
It's hard to get.
I'm not.
Like when you're diving, it's hard to get your arm at the right angle to catch it if you've got fingers up versus coming at it like this, where the pocket.
And full disclosure, right? I've only had 2 gloves, and since I was 16, so 34 years, and I've never, Shane, get your maturity hat on. I've never used more than a 10.5 inch. I've never used more than 10.5 inches.
Yeah.
So they're smaller
it's more
gloves.
like an infield glove.
Because I was an infielder, and I like to be able to use my glove like a hand. It's amazing how these outfield gloves,
enormous gloves,
they're so big.
Yeah, they're like 12, 13
But
inches.
I feel like anything that gets up towards the webbing, I don't know if you have as much control over it.
Yeah, you don't have a good feel on it.
So I think I would I think I would give up the inches for more control. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
Like, I want to be able to use my hands and how many of those did we see this weekend?
Yeah.
But we did see a ton of balls robbed, and I wouldn't get those.
Yeah,
because because
a
lot of those guys are 13 inches.
Yeah,
and I'm legit 10.5.
Yeah, I think that's what mine is.
My first Nakona was in the 9s.
Yeah,
and I have big hands for a little guy.
I never went. I think the 10.5 is the smallest I got, but I didn't go. I think I never went bigger than 11.
Did you see all those catches at the fence?
So the reason I'm hesitating on your sliding diving catch thing is Florida just hit so many.
Oh, every ball in those first 3 innings was on the screws.
And then late after the delay, they were just pinging it around.
How about on Friday? They didn't get a 3-up, 3-down inning until the 7th inning.
So I'm just sitting there. I was like, is any one out that important?
I just wanted to salvage it a little because I wanted Brockett to. Now, the rain.
Yeah.
And I had a correspondent, man.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Weather correspondent?
Oh, he was fantastic.
Coming up.
He put up with my random questions, too.
Coming up, we've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Watson's got an OPS over 1,000. He's batting .500 this week, and that ball is gone. 2-run shot for Swanson. Huskers lead 2-0.
Gabe was unconscious here at the end of the year, and the time that the team needed him the most. I think the fact that it was a new season and the postseason gave him a clean slate. Unbelievable young man. I mean, I just couldn't. He's a quiet kid, and he never wavered from the team. And it's why he honestly had an opportunity to do what he did, and why I wanted to continue to give him opportunities. He showed his talent at the end of the year. And yeah, who knows? I mean, he was by far, I mean, it was the best run I've ever seen.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Coming up on the show, we've got Sam McKewon at 8 a.m. from the Omaha World-Herald. And then at 9, we've got Tony Barnhart. He covers college football for TMG College Sports. He a little bit of an SEC expert. We're going to talk about some Sankey. See what old Greg's been up to.
Oh, man.
He's been moving.
Jeez.
He's been hustling and bustling.
The funny thing is let's not act like, hey, there's your guy. We talked about him. You must have heard me talking about you, my little favorite Frenchie.
Tony Parker?
Yes.
I thought your two favorite Frenchies were Biggie and Buddha.
They are. Looking for another one.
Yeah.
Gonna be a while I'll have to save, but yeah. I just don't want Buddha to be alone.
Yeah.
And Biggie's old.
Yeah. I get that.
You know what I mean?
That's tough.
Trying to transition.
Yeah.
We got turned down twice for adoption, so let you know how fit of a parent I am.
Dude, some of those, and listen,
they're hard.
I appreciate the work that the adoption agencies do. I do. Some of the ones, especially the specialty ones, it is harder than buying a house.
Bro.
Trying to get, like, they want to come do, and I get it. They want to make sure they're going to good homes. They want to make sure that but it's also like, hey, you kind of have to find this balance between, hey, we're overcrowded and we can't take any more dogs because we have all these dogs here, and not getting rid of dogs to people who are fit to have them.
Yeah, I'd like to tell we like to tell ourselves at our house that we didn't make the no kids cut for the last 2 dogs, even though
which is tough. I mean,
we sent in pictures with the dogs and kids, right? I think 7 primarily has been the cutoff for the last 2. And
so I think that's usually
she'll be 6 tomorrow. Oh, good dad. Wow.
I think usually that has more to do with the dog than your kids.
No,
dog,
I know.
Right. So
yeah, but I'm like, we're good. Like, we've had 32 dogs. Like, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we didn't get either one.
It is tough. I've gone through the process with some of those.
It is.
And it's like, it's pretty arduous. And like,
I'm not the one filling it out. So
I understand why, but there's a lot.
Shout out to her temperament. Cause like I mean,
that's why I keep going back to the same rescue. I've gotten my last 3 dogs from this place up in Walt Hill, Nebraska. That it's just this.
Really?
Yeah, it's just this.
I've passed through Walt Hill.
Yeah, it's kind of up by Winnebago.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because we went to a couple practices at Winnebago.
Yeah, it's just this place that it's this old retired couple. They just run a rescue off their farm, and I just found them online like 12 years ago. That's where I got Tally. That's my OG. And then I got Ravi there, and then got Doug there.
I understand how you changed.
I used to live in Wald Hill.
Changed it.
By the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
What in the world?
I'm just saying. I mean, you
talk. What are the odds?
You talk about Wald Hill, and I'm all in.
What were you doing in Walt Hill?
That's a good question.
Living. Doing my thing.
Living.
Living life.
At some point, you
living large.
Story. Put that on the board of things you didn't expect to hear. From Norwalk, Iowa to Maryville to
Wald Hill, Nebraska.
Then Omaha?
No, Wald Hill was way before all that, but.
Oh, it's like as a kid you lived in Wald Hill.
Yeah.
Before Norwalk?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. So your parents were in Wald Hill.
Lord have mercy.
Well, so was I. I was there with them.
I know, but like you weren't making it. Listen.
Hey, Shane, I was there too. What the?
It's not like you made a conscious decision to live in Wald Hill.
I did, because the parents were like, we're moving to Wald Hill. I said, okay, I guess we're moving to Wald Hill. So I made a conscious decision.
How old were you, Shane?
Probably like 6.
Okay, yeah.
Jeez, that is incredible.
You don't make conscious decisions.
Can I say another random town in Nebraska? What are the odds you'd have lived there? Slim to none?
Slim to none.
All right. Have you lived in BB Town, Iowa?
I've been to BB Town.
I passed through there every time.
I stopped at a place at BB Town with my buddy Kevin.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We stopped.
My buddy Heath. So the Lewis Central?
Yeah.
Like he takes his motorcycle there all the time.
Yeah, we pass right by it when we're going out to with the old house.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it I go.
So that's the way you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm familiar.
But yeah, Walt Hills is this little. It's called 12 Hills Dog Rescue. They're the best.
You don't have any Frenchies.
No, I can keep an eye out though.
Yeah, you do that.
I'm just saying that's how I ended up with Doug. Is my wife was literally like, "Hey, if you ever find a puppy version of Shadow," because she got Shadow when he was full grown already, and she loved.
You just change the names of your dogs and they like respond.
Well, so Shadow was Shadow when she got him, but yeah, the other ones. So Ravi and Doug we got when they were puppies. We adopted them when they were puppies. Tally though, I think she was like at least she was full grown, and her name was like Delilah or something. I was like, that's a stupid name. We're not calling her.
Who's answering to Delilah?
Not a soul, except for the people in that song. Hey there, Delilah.
Or the made up radio host that did the
dedications
at night.
That's right.
Delilah.
Was that like Star 104.5?
I don't know, man. They should have never replaced my man Houston. He used to do the late night cuts too, and then they put that show on. What the world?
But that was a solid show, though, as far as the way it was produced. It was a very well run, very well organized, and very well produced show.
I'm not calling my dog Delilah, so we changed that up. But yeah, you just call them whatever you want, man.
Yeah, I'm back on it. Call them what you want. We got how many games today do we have?
We've got 5.
Yeah, so I
maybe
think
6.
East Carolina and Evansville is early. That's at 11.
Yeah, 5.
Lo and behold, Florida comes from behind, forces an elimination game, just the way everybody drew it up. But I told you, sure as I was sitting here,
yeah,
they no business being a 3, but that's a team capable of winning a regional,
especially this regional in that ballpark.
It's incredible. We just
the match of their
spoke that into existence.
The match of their skill set versus the location.
Oh, they can rake.
Yeah, like every ball that got in the air for them was just like, oh, that's probably gone. Yep, no, that one's gone.
And
too.
I felt like we saw some really good defense from Friday to yesterday in the outfield.
It just didn't matter because, you know.
And then during the rain delay, like we were going to like the quintuple box. It wasn't even a quad box, but they were struggling on set. I get it. Like that's hard on the fly impromptu, especially with all the delays. But like the audio, like some people were talking in their IFB, but
it was going out.
It was going out over the air, and like I'm sure it was complicated.
It was probably pretty chaotic.
Well, because you're going to 4 or 5 sites.
Yeah.
While the other ones are in delay.
Not everybody can be Scott Hansen, you know?
Good point. But it was just my guy, shout out to my guy, Paul, who was in, no, I would not. Although he's a nice person. Paul was he was in Bricktown.
Oh, okay.
So somehow I can't remember why we started talking, what the original thing was. Oh, fair or foul. Fair or foul ball. And shout out to him for like watching X while you're at a game. Yeah, I don't know if I would do that. But so he must have seen, I was like, gosh, that's the best angle. So he sent me a picture of his. And I was like, man, I think that's a home run.
Yeah.
But anyways, neither here nor there. I'm just glad that wasn't the difference. Although, does that change the trajectory of the emotion? I don't know. It didn't appear that you could shut Florida down.
I'm not sure
all.
Anything was going to stop Florida.
And I said, too, I'm like, hey, what time is it supposed to rain there? He's like, oh, man, I think showers are maybe going to move through about 2, and about 10 minutes later, he DM'd me right on cue. And I was like, because I told him, I said, that would be the worst thing for Nebraska.
Yeah.
I'd like to put that thing on hold. Just keep playing.
Yeah.
And see what happens. Then everybody was delayed, though, because the Duke, Oklahoma region was, and everybody's darling, Duke, Dunzo.
Yeah, there was a lot of darlings that were Dunzo.
How hard is it to win a championship in college baseball?
Pretty hard.
It's brutal.
Harder or easier than putting a bullpen together?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, you got to win regionals, then supers. Hope you stay healthy.
You just got to go grab some high school guys and teach them how to pitch, remember? I thought that was all we had to do.
That's not what Tim said.
Just some high school guys, get them to walk on and...
Yeah, you know Tim's nuts. Tim will call back and let you have it.
I'm just saying, if those guys are just walking around for free, we got 300 teams in the country that could use them. That's DB.
Wasn't it amazing? Just blown lead after blown lead.
Nobody can pitch. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We've got more coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Unbelievable young man. I mean, I just played well in 1 of 3 facets of the game. I thought we swung the bats well.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
I'm kind of with my mathematician here.
Who's the mathematician?
Well, Jamie, he said, I don't know. He says 4-0 early. Maybe Coppola doesn't get out of the first inning.
Maybe.
You know, you make that. You know what I mean?
I still don't think Nebraska's
with the home run, like
slugging.
No, I know, but I don't know.
This is one of those I can't get what I saw out of my head.
Okay, but I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But just because it was 17-11 doesn't mean that that's how the game was going to go. If you resign yourself to that, okay, I'm probably not going to fight you over that.
I mean, so here's the.
But Nebraska hit almost every ball hard that inning, but conversely, so did Florida.
Yeah, I mean, Florida hit almost every ball hard the entire game.
I don't know. Is Brockett different? Is Brockett different at 4-0?
So here's my. I don't think the 17 for Florida is in question. I think they were the way they were hitting the ball. I think they were getting somewhere between. I mean, they were getting somewhere north of like 13-14 that game.
How'd you feel when it was 7-6?
7-6?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think Nebraska can score enough to win this.
Yeah, that's how Aaron was too. He's like, I don't know if we can keep this up.
Like I didn't.
What happened during the rain delay? Okay, so Florida went out to the batting cages or the outfield, and Nebraska stayed in the dugout. Was Florida doing something out there where they like?
People handle that stuff differently. Like I've seen it. I've actually experienced it. I've seen that done a couple of different ways. I mean, I was with the Stay Fresh, Get Ready, Get Coach and Coach Olson. But I've seen some other teams like
because I mean it went downhill after they came
act
back.
like some squirrel. Well, remember they got some runs.
Yeah, I'll say they got the runs back immediately, and then the pitching went off the rails.
Yeah. Did the order of the rotation throw you for a loop?
Not necessarily. I mean, you talking about going Brockett first?
No, I'm talking about after coming back out of like Froelich and
the bullpen.
The bullpen rotation.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you meant starters, and I was like, I don't know. Like, it's so hard when you're in that situation, right?
I know.
Because
and it's been the way. It's all the questions we asked for a month, and then we set it up last week. It's like you've got 10 or 11 arms. You got to find the right 6 or 7.
Yeah.
How do you know those 6 or 7 within
10 or 11 capable ones, and you don't know which ones are going to be on until they're in there, right? And so, A, that makes it difficult. B, you're in a situation where you still have to win 2 more games in 2 days to accomplish your goal. Because your goal is not to make it to the second game that night.
But
like I get you have to get there in order to do it.
Well, look where Florida is. You think they expected to be there?
No, but Florida knows none of their guys can pitch, and they're going to have to score 17 runs every game. It's a different equation.
A different mindset, you mean, probably.
I think it's a different equation for them too.
Okay, that's fine. But how about if Nebraska's like, okay, we have enough available arms, let's play it this way? What if they think? What if they think defensively the same way Florida thought offensively?
Yeah, but they were wrong.
Because that's how it played out.
No, I mean, that's how it played out twice over 2 different games where Florida in that ballpark was not going to be contained against Nebraska's pitching.
Yeah, but I didn't get that sense on
not to the same degree, but
on Friday. Although it did seem like Florida should be up more.
Yeah. They were sort of hitting the ball on the screws the same way Nebraska was early. They just didn't get a lot to show for it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're Nebraska, the only thing I think you could have done differently, because again, like we said, you've got 10 or 11 guys. You don't know which 6 or 7 are going to be good on any given day. So I'm not going to get real nitpicky about the rotation about the progression through the bullpen.
He was good. He's one of the few that didn't give up any earned runs.
I think
I think Dice and
Perry got rocked.
Perry, they gave up 3 apiece.
Yeah. And every ball against Perry looked like it was leaving the yard. It was a tough outing for him.
Boris gave up the 3 earned runs. So it went Dice, Boris, and then Perry.
Yes.
Right in that order.
Yeah, and then Horn was last.
Yeah.
And he actually looked pretty good. But again, it's 17-6 at that point. Like, okay, is this a guy where we put him in there when there's no pressure and he pitches really well, but we put him in there in a high leverage situation? Like, that's the other thing too, right? Is you can go back and be like, oh, well, Horn threw really well. Why didn't he get an earlier look? And like maybe they know from a mental standpoint, even though he's got the great stuff and is throwing 94, 95 every pitch.
Do you know how many, off the top of your head, do you know how many runners Nebraska left on base?
I don't off the top of my head.
Is it more or less than Florida?
I would guess more.
They both left 6 on base. Did it seem like more?
I thought so. It felt like Nebraska didn't take advantage of their opportunities as much.
It seemed like more.
But when you score a lot of runs, you don't remember the what ifs.
Right.
Like that's human nature, where it's like, oh, they had like if you score a lot of points in a football game, you don't remember the missed third down conversions.
Yeah. I don't know that one that they left on third base where they could have tied it up. I mean, that was an important
to make it 7.
Yeah. That was a big one.
That was huge.
And you kind of sit there and you go,
can they seize this momentum?
Yeah.
But I thought Joel, he kind of said it best because we were kind of going back and forth with, I think, Channel 3 Sean and a couple of other guys were in that thread. And Joel, he said something to the effect of, this is kind of who they are. Good team, not great. Playing well. But, lack a little high-end talent.
Yeah.
That was kind of, and he only said it in like a sentence or 2. Like that was the tweet. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of in agreement with that.
That's an accurate assessment.
And that's kind of how Bolt said what he said in his presser.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, hey, man, I got all I could get out of these guys. He said that without saying it.
Yeah. Right? Because he's not going to come out and be like, well, in order to make it past this point, we probably need better players.
Because I still don't. I mean, maybe you need a little bit more consistency out of the
arms.
Yeah. But
like if you can turn,
I didn't leave that thing and think, well, they need better off. I didn't think they needed better players necessarily as more as they needed some to be able to maybe some swing. They needed some swing and miss guys.
They for sure need some swing and miss guys in terms of their pitching staff. I would maybe like a little more depth in the lineup.
Yeah.
That was the thing with Florida, right?
Although you have a couple guys that really played well late that weren't key contributors early and in the season too. So
yeah, I just didn't ever feel like you had more than a couple guys going at once offensively. Oh. Whereas that was the thing we brought up with Kevin Brockway with Florida was they had the depth of guy, what would we say, 6 guys that were not injured with double-digit home runs. Oh. That's a crazy number in college baseball. That's a huge amount of lineup depth that Nebraska, like that to me was the difference, was Florida pitchers, even though they weren't very good, could find places to sort of hide in Nebraska's lineup. Mm-hmm. Florida's lineup was relentless. And so if you don't have the high-end arms, you don't have the hit-and-miss stuff, you're just constantly.
Well, you're not going to get a guy with 6 ABs all year have 4 hits like on Friday.
That's a total outlier, right?
But that speaks to the depth that you're talking about.
Yeah, the depth of talent that you're talking about with Florida, right? Like that guy probably gets 150, 180 at bats this year for Nebraska, and with Florida, you're just like, oh, we got a guy hurt. We got this other guy. Let's toss him in there, and he just gets 4 hits in a regional. Like, yeah, it's an outlier, but there's also. Like Nebraska doesn't have that option, right? I know Gabe Swanson came on late, but he was supposed to be good this year, and they only got 2 weeks of it, right? Like and then when, Swanson or Karen or whoever comes on that you're feeling good about, it always seems like it's at the expense, but at the same time that maybe a couple other people fall back, right? It's not like you have 4, 5, 6 guys going good at the same time. And that seemed like what Florida, that was Florida's. And listen, they lost a ton of games this year. I get that. But that team with that lineup in that ballpark, you better have guys that can make them swing and miss.
Yeah. So what's that make them now? 31-28, 30-28?
31-28.
Yeah. So the slate, if you're paying attention today, this is just the way you drew it up. The Aces of Evansville. Mm-hmm. They take on the East Carolina Pirates at 11. Okie State, Florida's at 2. Oregon State, Irvine at 5. Star-studded here, North Carolina and LSU. How about the gutty performance of LSU?
Man, they've been.
Claude have mercy. Wofford had them on the ropes and just.
That's kind of like their season in a nutshell, though, right? Like they were kind of left for dead.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you look up, they're 43-22 and 1 game away from a super.
The top of that lineup can flat out swing it. And then I know this is the way you had it, UConn and Oklahoma. What'd I tell you about Oklahoma last week? Careful for a team that isn't like eye-popping
thought of in that way.
I said keep an eye on Oklahoma. If you're looking for a team that isn't that highly held in that high of regard that could make a run. So the Sooners get UConn, the Big East
representing,
UConn, and then Oregon State and Irvine.
The winner of
late.
The winner of
because that one's suspended. I think that's 6-4. Is there anything worse than playing a suspended baseball game?
No.
Things can change in a hurry.
It doesn't like it's a total. I mean, it's bad. Rain delays are bad enough.
Those are the worst.
I mean, just go ask Cleveland about rain delays.
You're playing that like a brand new deal.
You have to,
and that is.
You have to bring in a whole new pitcher that like you've got nothing there to fall back on whatsoever.
So the Irvine and Oregon State finished that one up suspended. It's going to be an interesting supers. All of a sudden, teams that didn't think they were going to be hosting supers.
Hosting some supers.
Find themselves hosting some supers.
Neither Clemson or Vanderbilt felt like winning that regional.
Vandy was just flat out bad.
They got smoked.
Yeah.
2 in the queue, baby.
South Carolina, Arkansas.
Man, a lot of people thought
Arkansas couldn't hit.
No. We will come back with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. That's TB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Played well in one of three facets of the game. I thought we swung the bats well, didn't pitch or play defense, and a team like Florida is going to expose that. And, we poured it all out there, though. I mean, I'm not no regrets about this game, how, it went. Obviously, we want to be on the right side of it, but we competed our tails off.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's TV. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and I've got to remind you to get out to Union Omaha. They had a couple matches over the last few days that you definitely should have been out at, but we've got some more coming up as always, because there's always more Union Omaha. After a little road trip this week on the 5th, they'll be back in town June 13th here at Werner Park. Make sure you get to unionomaha.com to get tickets. It is part of the Special Olympics Unified Series, this match, and it is also a Pride Night and Thrifty Thursday. You don't want to miss out on all that coming up a week from Thursday. Get to unionomaha.com for tickets. As we wait for Sam McKewon here.
Shane, you just need to call him back in a couple minutes, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So it'll be just a few minutes when we get to Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. There's, I think there's some interesting sort of, this is a weird term for it, but like in the risk analysis world, when we are looking back on, we call it a postmortem.
Yeah,
right? After the thing is dead.
Along came Polly.
Yeah, like as you kind of have some post-mortem thoughts about Nebraska's baseball season, I think there's some interesting questions that we started to address last week about kind of who and what the program should be.
Yeah, tried to set that when I bristled up last week, right? I just think
you got mad. Ooh.
Because I just think we act like the baseball program isn't good.
Well, that's not what I'm acting like.
It's a good baseball program.
Are you willing to hear me say the baseball program is good? I'm just respecting the high-end level of talent in the state that much.
Oh, okay. I like the backhanded compliment. Sure.
It's not a backhanded compliment. Like,
I mean, I'll take it. I'm not going to die on that hill. I know what you're trying to say. You're like, I think you're saying Nebraska has a lot of really good high school baseball
This
talent.
is more about the high school baseball talent than it is Nebraska University of Nebraska baseball.
But you used one as the barometer for the other, which drew the.
I understand that.
You know what I mean?
But I do think they're connected as well. Or they need to be.
We have Sam, by the way.
Ultimately.
Well, let's ask this guy. He gives us some smart answers. Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. How are you, Sam?
Sam, good morning. How are you? You there, Sam? Shane, does Sam know that you punched him up?
Apparently not, but I'll call him back.
All right.
He sounds like he's trying to talk to us from very far away.
Yeah, maybe the moon.
I think I heard a hello in there.
Hello, friend. Hello. So back to your Ruben Pfeiffer. That's his character in the book. So what do you think, Ruben?
I think we need to have a real and realistic conversation about what long-term is success for Nebraska baseball.
Nebraska baseball should be making runs at Big Ten championships every year.
Okay, fair.
They should be in the postseason every year.
I don't disagree. I think I'll call it 8 out of 10 years. I'll give them a little leeway. 8 out of every 10 years, they should be in a regional.
6 teams get in, right?
From where?
To the postseason tournament. To Big Ten.
Oh, I'm talking about regionals, not Big Ten. They should be in the Big Ten tournament every year. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Full stop.
Okay.
I'm talking about 7 to 8 out of 10 years they should be in
a regional?
NCAA regionals.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Is that a fair number?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, Sam.
Which is about the pace that they're on.
Yeah, Sam, do we have you here?
Hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you. Sam, are you in Pluto, Neptune? Where are you, my guy?
I'm at home.
Oh,
I think there's something wrong with my headphones today. I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm at home. The rare occasion we actually catch you sitting still is the only time we've ever had it.
My headphones. Sorry about that.
You didn't help any of the new guys move in over this weekend, or what?
I'm sure you did.
No. I know I was done. So, yeah, we got that over with a couple weeks ago. I did have a player ask me for an air fryer, so I may take him up on that. We have a couple. I don't even know the rules though. If you can have air fryers in the suites, I'm sure you can, but
I don't know. You better check on that.
I don't know,
I'd
Sam.
worse than my dorm, that's for sure.
Sam, nobody. So anybody that's having this conversation, the four of us, if you include half of Shane, so 3.5 of us, nobody's dorms looks like the suites that the players are staying in. It's not even. I don't even know, Sam, if I would move off campus. To be honest, I don't. I mean, I guess I would take this. So it's the numbers game, right? Not to go all Coastal Carolina baseball coach here and hate on NIL, but you'd have to weigh the risk of getting a scholarship check, moving off campus, and finding a cheap enough place to stay with a roommate where you could still pocket money.
Yeah.
Versus getting your living expense and staying in the dorm. Because the suites are unbelievable. You don't even have to see your roommate if you don't want to. Just close the door.
Yeah, that's
They have a living room. Shoot, it's not a bad deal at all.
The cost of living, I don't know how to the cost of rent in Lincoln is going up like it is in most places. So yeah, it's not easy anymore. And landlords don't have to say, well, you're a Husker athlete, I'll give you a discount. That's not how that works. So
yeah,
they got to make it.
That was the unintended consequence, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah, not even that. Like they just the nature of housing today. It is a what you might call a tight buyer's market and a tight rental market in Lincoln. There's not enough houses. There's not enough apartments, not enough houses, not enough everything. So that's just the reality of the city at this point. That hopefully that changes.
Yeah, I don't know if the housing market's coming back anytime soon because there's like that window of like first home buyers and stuff like that are super squeezed out in Omaha too. It's a tough market.
If it makes you feel better, It's a national problem. It's not just us. It's probably better here than most places, honestly.
It's definitely a national problem.
Sam, we were talking about as we were bringing you on here, kind of what the expectations for Nebraska baseball should be sort of moving forward, right? I think we all, or most people who are paying attention to the program think Will Bolt's doing a good job. And if they don't, then they probably need to look a little closer at the track record. He's done well so far, I think, and is moving in the right direction. But what to you do you think is a reasonable, consistent level for them to be asked to get to? Is it just getting to regionals every year? Do they have to break through and make a super every once in a while? Like, what should Nebraska baseball be?
Well, I think, the old line from Moneyball was, it was Billy Bean's job to get the A's to the playoffs, right? And so what happened once you got there, and I'm not saying that I believe in Moneyball 193%, but my point being that the job is to get there. And preferably, you would like to host because the percentages of regional hosts that make it to the super regionals, it's high. I don't know what it is. I mean, this year it's probably going to be 10 out of 16 or something. And so ideally you want to host, which means you got to be one of the top 16 teams in the country. But the goal is to make it to a regional and preferably host that regional. And then from there, I think it's kind of I wouldn't call it quite a crapshoot. I think it's more than that. But there's some variability involved. Kansas State is going to a super regional, and I don't think they're a better baseball team than Nebraska. But I do think they got a better regional. I think they got, the 3. They're a 3 seed, and the 2 seed they got was Louisiana Tech. Well, that's different than Florida, which is a 3 seed masquerading. It's really a high 2 masquerading as a 3, and you never want that. That's a hard thing because if Florida decides it wants to play really well, they're going to beat you because they got better players. And so you don't want to draw that. The 2 teams I hoped Nebraska would not draw were UConn and Florida. Mm-hmm. And UConn because UConn's good, and Florida is because they got a lot of talent, and they flexed their muscles over the weekend. And they played really well. They might even win this regional. Oklahoma State is there, but Nebraska was not competitive with Florida. Florida dominated those two games. Let's be honest. And so, I think you've got to find a way to get into the right regional. And if you do that, then you might make your way to the Super. And if you do that, then you might make your way to the CWS. The thing's got to break your way. And so I think that's probably the goal from here on out. If you want more than that, like if you want a larger goal, and the goal is, okay, basically to be one of the top 10 teams in the country every single year, I think Will Bolt would say, okay, well, then we've got to figure out a way to invest in our program that's commensurate with attracting those kids, whether that's a pitching lab or, some sort of training facility out there. I'm not saying that's a silver bullet, but I am saying that, like, salary for coaches alone isn't going to get that done. I think they've got a head coach that knows his stuff, and they've got one of the better pitching coaches in the country, who is a former head coach himself and is willing to work at Nebraska at a discounted rate. If that guy went to LSU, he'd be making more money. And so it's not about salaries. I think they would say, well, we need to find a way to get a few more things in here that attract those players. There's two guys, for example, that aren't going to Nebraska, who were sort of the captains of the All-Nebraska baseball team. I don't know if they're going to their colleges at all. They may go to the major leagues, but those guys aren't going to Nebraska. And I think that there's a sense there of, well, if those guys were going to Nebraska would be a better baseball team next year. And so I think that's probably the area, is how do you get the best recruits in the state? How do you keep guys here when, Perfect Game, which is I don't know how to put it, but, showcases and travel ball takes you to the South.
Yeah.
And it becomes very appealing. Like, how do you keep the kids here? That's going to be the challenge. If you want a higher standard than making a regional, you're going to have to examine those things, irrespective of who the head coach is.
Hey, Sam,
so I think Will Bolt could do that either way. Go ahead.
Even though baseball probably stands a better chance to be more self-sustaining than high school football relative to the rest of the country, not, why do you think the mindset is different in terms of keeping in-state talent at home in baseball than it is in football? Why do you think it's a much bigger priority in football? Because I get it, right? For every Harvey and Komine and but you have a Povich, Jake Meyer, and an Alex Gordon too, right? So why do you think it's gotten away from baseball locally?
That's a good question. I think because we probably don't spend as much time covering it. I think the media coverage of it is notable.
So if we knew more about the high school guys, we would make a bigger deal about them staying home.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
The same amount of attention,
yeah,
right? If we follow Cam Cozio like
right.
we do Carter Nelson,
right? Yes, I think that's part of it. The biggest miss was Alec Bone. Like the guy that went to Wichita State. That was probably the biggest miss of all, given what he's doing now.
I mean, I get it, Sam, but he did go to multiple high schools, kind of flew under the radar. Like, I don't know, maybe.
But again, like I don't want to. Baseball's a little trickier. If there's no guarantee that these players will go to college and be great.
Yeah.
You could argue that, I don't know, Aaron Judge is one of the 5 best players in the major leagues. He hit 18 home runs in college at Fresno State. And he didn't have his coming out party until the CWS home run thing in Omaha. Yeah. Kyle Peterson and the other guy were talking about that yesterday. Like, Aaron Judge did not have a distinguished collegiate career. He didn't. He just didn't. And then all of a sudden, it happened. So, like, baseball's tricky that way. I think there's some kids who, because they grow up in Omaha around the CWS, they fall in love with other teams. They're at the CWS all the time. And, they get the hats, and they have the hats. And Arkansas's here all the time. And, Arizona State or whomever we would be talking about, well, they're here. And so it's almost like you see them more often. If a kid wanted to go to Tennessee, I don't know that I'd blame it. I mean, that coach is compelling, and the uniforms and the whole thing. I don't personally like the all gray uniforms that they wear, but some people do. And so, it's always those things. It's small little things. In football, I think we've covered it for a long time, and also, in-state players have been the lifeblood of that program's success. And I understand how many other players come from other places. So, but like Nebraska, 2 Heisman winners, 2 of the 3 Heisman winners come from Nebraska, and so on and so forth. We could go on and on with that. So probably coverage, I think some of it is. And then in basketball, it doesn't make much difference. But in basketball, there's other stuff at play.
Yeah, and I don't think the talent is as high. I think you get into a different discussion than you do maybe softball, baseball, or football.
For sure. No, yeah, basketball is a trickier conversation. That I will say there's going to be a kid, here in 2 weeks from Aurora, Nebraska, is going to be taken in the first round of the NBA draft, and Nebraska did not manage to offer that kid out of high school. Not only that, I will then be told by every single person who covered college basketball or recruiting that they shouldn't have. Well, they shouldn't have done it. He didn't deserve it. Okay. You don't understand. No, I don't understand. That's right. I don't. You're correct.
Sam with the very hot take.
That was the proper level. Okay. All right.
Sam with the very hot take that Nebraska should offer first-round draft picks.
South Dakota State, that was the place to go. You don't understand. Creighton didn't offer him. Well, Creighton's a lot better than Nebraska. And then he ended up going to Creighton. So, people keep acting like Nebraska is like this high major program, and they're not. They're, like South Dakota State's been to more NCAA tournaments in the last 10 years of Nebraska. Nebraska should offer like they're a mid-major.
Wow.
If you can develop like South Dakota
in the state and develop them,
yeah,
and not think of themselves as a major program, because that's not what. Now Fred's getting them in the right direction, and good for him, but they've not been that. So why would you act like we can't take that guy? He's not Big Ten ready. Well, your program, with the exception of last year, has not been Big Ten ready. So
wow. I take
not
Monday.
that big of a deal. So basketball is different. All these kids Nebraska was not able or should not have taken. You shouldn't have taken that player. Well, he was very good. I know, but it doesn't matter. It's Tyree Thomas, it's whomever. It's can't take those players in the Big Ten. What if we don't win? You're not winning. So what difference does it make?
Sam, let me ask you something, because I felt like we saw this with Danny Caitlin and a couple of other guys in recent memory, where sometimes familiarity breeds a little contempt, right? Just it's because we see somebody so much, we have our minds made up. Like if I see Cole Eaton, if I've watched Cole since he's in the seventh grade or whatever, 5th grade, versus only seeing him a couple of times over at Elkhorn South, do I think about the projection differently? Because what if recency actually has a bias to the bad?
Yeah, no question about it. Yep, I think there's an over-familiarity, and this is true everywhere you go, right? Everywhere you go, and it's true in our own life. We look at our own family members more critically. We know everything we know about our siblings or about our kids. And so we always think our own kids are acting up in ways that no other kid in the history of the planet would. And that's not true. A lot of people are relatively the same. And there are a few athletes that escape that scrutiny and that kind of criticism. There have been a few. I think Carter Nelson, to be honest with you, has been almost universally praised, and that's good. I think he's done
although for me, full disclosure, I've seen too much, which is probably why I'm more critical. Or I wouldn't say critical. I'm not as
more skeptical.
I'm a little more skeptical than most.
Yes. So I there's a few guys that I think have been, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we can certainly become overly familiar with players. And again, in football, it's tricky, and there's a bunch of considerations to work through. And but But yeah, like I think we can be over familiar. I think it can turn into, well, that guy's not that good. He got beat on this day by this guy over here, and that guy's not even a D1 recruit. I think that's just natural. I just feel like I've seen it more in basketball. Well, that guy can't play there, or that guy's transferring to Wisconsin, but he can't. He couldn't have played there. Or that guy's transferring now to USC, but he wasn't good enough out of high school. That guy's going to.
You can keep preaching the St. Thomas. I love it.
And the crazy thing is, his Saint is really good.
That guy's not, and again, I know that what I'm like, I am free. I have the advantage of being completely naive. That's an advantage that I have in this sense. I don't know the inner workings of high school basketball the way that the two of you do. I don't know. So I have the advantage of being naive and innocent in that way. There's probably dynamics that I don't understand, and I am ill-informed or under-informed. I would argue that in the world of recruiting, sometimes it's an advantage not to know. Yeah. And it can be an advantage not to be aware. Yeah. And that, I probably operate on relativity a lot more than most people do. And so I would say, a 3-star here probably isn't all that different from a 3-star somewhere else, or a low 4 and a low 3. There's really no difference between those two players. There's a difference between the number 4 player in the country and the number 50 player in the country. The number 4 player in the country is probably pretty damn good. Getting the number 4 player in the country matters. We got the number 237th player versus the number 327th player doesn't have that much. Mm-hmm. And so, relatively. And so, I kind of operate in that zone more than other people do. And so, I'm innocent or naive of some of those things. So I freely admit that I'm less informed on some of these in-state basketball players. I just know they're going to power conference schools, and not Nebraska. We're great this year, and these kids are pretty good. And so, it's worth noting. And then as a journalist, I get to be the person that asks the annoying question or brings up the annoying point. Well, all these players seem to be pretty good, and they're going to good programs. Why didn't they come here? And then I get to be told that I don't understand, and maybe I don't understand. That's accurate.
Or maybe the people that do understand just miss. Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, great stuff as always. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
Basketball.
Thanks, Sam.
Gave us plenty to chew on for the next couple of segments. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. He just took a flamethrower to, I think, the local recruiting scene. We'll get into that next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back.
program success. And I understand how many other players come from other places. So, but like Nebraska, 2 Heisman winners.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Well, they shouldn't have done it. He didn't deserve it. Okay. You don't understand. No, I don't understand. That's right. I don't. You're correct. That was the proper level. Okay. All right. You don't understand. Creighton didn't offer him. Well, Creighton's a lot better than Nebraska. And then he ended up going to Creighton. So, can't take those players in the Big Ten? What if we don't win? You're not winning. So what difference does it make?
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Lots of hot takes from Sam McKewon.
Yeah, Sam was
he was feeling a little spicy this morning.
Little fired up.
I like that. What's not a hot take though is joining the Nebraska Alumni Association on their travel package to USC. Follow the Huskers to the City of Angels when Nebraska plays at USC in November with the official Nebraska Alumni Travel Package. Packages are available at huskerfantravel.com to book and to see what options you have available. They've got 2 or 3 night options, welcome events, game day transportation. You've got the whole deal, including Husker Huddle pregame party. Lots of options there. huskerfantravel.com. Get on the same page as the Nebraska Alumni Association for that USC game.
Very user-friendly schedule, too.
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I mean, we have 4 Thursday games, which helps.
It does help.
West Side. So I have to navigate Purdue.
Yeah.
Purdue's a toughie because we've got Central that night. And it's an 11 a.m., why they would have an 11 a.m. kick on homecoming? Come on, Purdue.
You better Purdue better than that next year.
Man, I've
got
so
that audible groan from Shane.
That's the only one that's giving me a little. I need some Tums.
I think some Husker fans might need some Tums after Sam's segment there.
I hope they don't. So I'm not. And we weren't. I think we're laughing at Sam's delivery.
Yes, yeah. But I also because we've all had that conversation with that guy.
Yeah,
who's like, oh well, I mean, and listen, I get it, right? I've said many times.
You rationalize not getting
the good players.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. I've said many times, I don't know if Doug McDermott goes to a high major right out of high school. I don't know if he turns into Doug McDermott. I don't. A lot of guys need the reps early to turn into who they're going to be. Right. But I also know, hey, Doug McDermott, pretty darn good basketball player. A lot of places in the country probably would have liked to have him.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. Like we just went down in the break, the summit, because I asked you the question as soon as we hung up with Sam. I go, would Nebraska be better if they got the Summit League Player of the Year every year? Because that's what we're talking about with Baylor Shireman and all these guys.
And
right?
I said unequivocally yes.
Because what's the list?
Well, glad you asked.
Because
Zeke Mayo
is playing at Kansas this year. Pretty good. Is Kansas better than Nebraska?
Yeah, Max Acemus.
He's playing at Texas. Is Texas better than Nebraska?
Baylor Shireman.
Playing at Creighton. Was Creighton better than Nebraska?
Max Acemus.
It's still good.
Mike Dom twice.
Still pretty good.
Max Landis.
Who I don't remember as much.
Lawrence Alexander. North Dakota State went on a nice little run.
Yeah, you had Nate Walters in there.
And then Nate Walters was South Dakota State.
Yeah.
And then Dominic Morrison. Then you get into like Caleb Green twice from Oral Roberts, who was a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
But in between there, how about George Hill from Ooey Pooey?
Yeah, just casually getting drafted, playing for, I believe, got a title with the
15 years.
Yeah,
George
just
Hill.
retired.
George played 15
years. Believe he got a title with the Cavs.
Yeah, was
part of those really good.
But it's a really hard discussion too, because in the same vein, you have to have a couple of developmental success stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing.
Well,
you have to be a program that is like, hey,
we can do this.
You can put that on your resume.
So
because otherwise it just looks like revisionist history.
That's the thing that Creighton has over Nebraska right now. Because I know that they didn't offer Shireman out of high school. But you know who they did offer out of high school? Kyrie Thomas.
Yeah.
You know who they did offer out of high school? Your Antoine Youngs and your Josh Joneses and your Justin Pattons before anybody else did. And a lot
Josiah Dotzler, the best offer yet. Yeah.
And a lot of sometimes it doesn't work, like with the Josiah Dotzler. And then he goes and bounces back to what's probably a better level for him at St. Louis, where I think he has a chance to be successful.
He's going to be good.
Right, yeah, because he's a good ball player. Creighton was probably a little bit of a reach for him, kind of like what we were talking about with a lot of the baseball players coming out of Nebraska, where you see the SEC school, right? And you're like, hey, I want to give myself a shot.
I'm going to tell you something about that, though, as I've thought more about it.
Okay.
If you get a couple of bounce backs, I'm just talking with Nico right now over text, and he's right. A lot of those guys are in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Not like local guys.
That's okay.
So maybe you need another year of that. And it's not like, hey, don't succeed, have something go wrong in your college career. But maybe you need a year or two more of like a Max Anderson coming back.
Sure.
And having success after going elsewhere, where maybe those guys don't leave in the first place while you're trying to win.
So I think there's a couple things there. First of all, I think it's great to get all the bounce back kids, right? Let them go take their shot, right? Let them see what the highest level looks like. And if they realize, hey, like I'm having a hard time cracking through here, let's bounce back and because just for every Summit League Player of the Year that goes to play for Kansas or goes to play for the Spurs or whatever, you also have like a Joe Flacco who starts off at a higher level and bounces back and needs to.
If Nebraska had one more elite offensive talent and one more power arm, do you feel good?
Yeah, I'd feel a lot better.
Yeah, right.
We're not super far away.
It's not monumental.
It's a very solid ball club that needs a little bit extra.
But I thought Sam brought up and fine, like I've been saying this, and it's not like, oh man, Damon said, but I'll even go as far as to say, you know what we need to do? We need to figure out a way to stream more. Who was talking about streaming baseball games? Right? I was like, you know what? We need to find a way to stream more high school baseball games. And I got the pushback from everybody, right? Oh, the camera angles, it's hard to follow the flight of the ball, this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, okay. But I said, I'm just telling you, like, I watch enough of this where every other sport's available through Strive or the NFHS or wherever, right? Like, and Nico was just like, I'm going to get his exact words. He says, baseball has to be close to the top sport for producing D1 talent and is the least talked about in the media. Sam is correct. So I liked what Sam brought up the point, because then it clicked. I was like, shoot, if Tyson Lewis was in the paper every other day,
people would probably be more up in arms.
Or we made a big deal about, not clearing 6 feet 4 inches in high jump like we do with football guys, or guy throws 170 feet in discus. Like, maybe that is different. Maybe our attention would be like, oh man, we can't let that guy get away. Because I guarantee you, and I get it, I'm a nerd, like, fine, like I like high school sports, not maybe, but if you're a baseball guy, you know about all these guys, and you've seen them really, really young. So, when Cam Koziel was playing against us a couple of years ago at quarterback, the very first thing I told our guys with our scout is, this guy's a winner. He's used to he's clutch in baseball. I assume he's going to be like that because he'd been real sporadic at quarterback. And he single-handedly kept those sons of guns in the game against us. Because he's just, and yeah, I get it. He's 5'8" with some thunder thighs and doesn't look like a guy. But if we had been reading about, there's lots of guys like that.
I think there's two things here that are,
and maybe we just don't have the volume to cover it. But
so I think there's two things here that are important. Is A, the coverage is not there, so people don't know, right? B, I think for a lot of these things, people don't have the frame of reference, right? Most people in the state of Nebraska know football, right? Like, that's our thing.
I think you're selling baseball short.
Listen, I know there's a lot of really smart baseball people, but I'm talking about, because what we're talking about, we're talking about people getting mad about Nebraska getting a recruit or not. So we're talking about more common fans. More common fans have a familiarity and a frame of reference with football than they do for baseball. And so without that context, it's hard to get that mad about something, because you're like, well, maybe he's just whatever, right? It's hard to be like, well, I know this guy. I saw him play in high school. I know he runs a 4.4. I know he's 6 foot
so
tall.
He gets a comp or whatever.
Yeah, like you have frame of references for these people.
Or you can watch the Rolfson twins in volleyball and say, oh,
yeah, like I know
they remind me of Allison Weston.
Yes, like I know what that's supposed to look like, and that's what it looks like, right? I don't think very many people, even if they really like high school baseball, I don't think a ton of people have the frame of reference to go from, if it looks like this in high school, then it looks like this in college.
Yeah, but okay, all right, I'm listening.
I think that's
baseball is hard, because I look at all the guys at the junior college ranks. There are so many good junior college baseball players that just needed like one more year or another 150 ABs or something like that. I get it. Like, the projection is tougher.
I would argue a lot of people in the state don't know how to project in basketball either, like Sam was talking about. Like, there's some that do, but man, I got players that I never should have got because people don't know what they're looking at. That's just a true story. That's CB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where we are brought to you by Team Jack Foundation. Make sure you get to teamjackfoundation.org to find out all the different ways you can get involved, whether it's just donating directly on the webpage, finding ways to volunteer, or finding events to get involved in. teamjackfoundation.org has you covered. You can also learn about where your efforts will be going to, whether it's Memorial Sloan Kettering, whether it's UNMC. They have projects across the country that they are funding and helping to fund with the over $12 million to date that you've helped raise. Make sure you get to teamjackfoundation.org, because all they're trying to do is find better treatments for childhood brain cancer and one day a cure. That's teamjackfoundation.org.
By the way, shout out prayers for Lennox, loves for Lennox. She landed in Boston last night.
Okay.
She's back for round 2 at Boston.
Got those numbers up so she could fly, huh?
Yep, they left yesterday.
Good.
So I am, I didn't let it ruin my mood yesterday, but fairly subdued last night. But as you met her.
Yep. Little champion.
Oh yeah, she's a toughie.
Absolutely.
So let's go support Team Jack.
TeamJackFoundation.org. Let's get to something I know has been bothering you a little bit.
My man, degenerate Aaron.
What do you say?
Why is Sam so yelly? Why so much? When Sam is Bob, so that was definitely an interview where he allowed the criticisms that he's received.
Oh yeah.
And I'm totally like, in our business, you're notorious and they're hilarious. If somebody has been at you over, or multiple people have been at you for over the same thing, for whatever your threshold is, it's different for everybody. Like what you get from that when you feel as though you're ultimately going to be right, can come across as a complete meltdown, and they're the greatest rants ever.
Give Tommy Hill the ball. Get him the ball. Which coach in the room says, "Hey guys, you know what? You know what, guys? Hey, I coached this game for 30 years, and I'm telling you."
Like so those are like, people just been gnawing at you.
My threshold is directly proportionate to how right I feel I am.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the more right you feel, I feel like the more right I feel I am, the longer I'll let it go because I'm not bothered by it.
See, I'm bothered by the idiocy, not the argument. Right. So when I think I'm more right and then people come at me with stupid stuff, my threshold's real low because I'm like, I don't even understand how you could believe this other thing to be true. Right. Whereas if I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm right here, but I could see other options.
Yeah.
My threshold's a lot higher to hear from people because I think there's another side to a conversation. When I don't think there's any other good options besides the one I'm presenting, my threshold's pretty low for idiocy. So like when people are like,
oh shoot,
like when people are like, no, actually Dion's building it the right way. Like my threshold's pretty low. I'm not probably going to deal with that. Or when people try to tell me that Bo Jackson was a great NFL running back, probably not going to listen to a lot of that.
Dude, so I think we're
you missed it. I mean,
we're getting him some solutions for
you...
baseball. I may have to give my man, Mr. Sailors, a little rope because he is rolling this morning spot on.
Yeah,
because I watch this all the time. Right, you have enough parents just watching baseball. Well, I wasn't watching, but like the Zickmans were in town, right? CC was playing up at Mount Michael, and I watch parents, especially younger. Like you can watch games on apps. I'm talking like 10 to 14U. You can watch games on baseball apps. I was like, well, why can we do that in stream? But why can't we do that in high school?
Everyone wants to tell you why they can't do something.
But he's right, though, because I'm looking at these apps. You'll sit next to parents that have multiple kids, and you'll be like in a basketball gym in the summer and they'll be playing baseball. They're literally watching their kid pitch.
Yeah.
It's like, that might be the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, who's developing those apps?
But we can't figure out in high school.
I'm telling you, I'm a big, and again, I think it's because I love the sport so much.
Sure, yeah, 100%.
But we
rock. High school baseball in the State's good. I mean, like
it's incredible.
Yeah,
and I like it so much. I don't even get people have done this to me for 6-7 years, and I don't get drawn into it. I'm not going to get into, where you play your summer baseball, Legion versus prospects versus. I'm all about. Listen, do I love high school ball? Yeah. Do I want you to play Legion? Absolutely. But if that's not your deal and you want eyes and you want to do a showcase or you want to do prospects, I'm not mad at that either.
No.
Right? It's no different than if you're doing summer leagues with us or you're going to play 7-on-7. Do I love 7-on-7? No. But I'm not going to hate on you for playing it either.
Yeah.
Right?
Whatever you think is going to make you better.
Not so much that.
No?
As much as if you're staying active and you're involved. And with baseball, I'm a lot more lenient because it's about reps.
Yeah.
Much, 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 much more so than in football.
Yeah. The number of reps you have to get into develop in baseball is stupid.
So I've said this from as long as since high school for sure. It's the hardest of the true skilled team sports. So whatever you have to do to get yourself ready in baseball,
my only argument is hockey.
Okay, that's fine.
That's the only one
Yeah,
that's close.
You
for me.
watch Connor McDavid score.
Yeah, and you're
night,
just
that
like,
first
how
game?
do you do that while he's skating on knives? Like, I don't understand that.
Just he's sick.
No, but it's ridiculous. Like the skill sets involved.
But I did hope you took that flyer on the Panthers to win the cup that I said.
Well, I'm rooting
months
for
ago.
Edmonton though.
I get it. I'm not mad at you, and I'm very much looking forward to this series. I don't really care who wins, except for this time I would like to be right.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's going to be highly entertaining.
I'm just rooting for the Canadians to get a Stanley Cup. That's all.
They have like 40 of them. Why the hell do they need another one?
Because of the drought.
Because it's been like 35 years.
The Sahara.
30 years. It's been a minute.
A lot of teams are on drought right now.
You know, it hasn't been a minute since we get some Caitlin Clark controversy. I'm so sick of this, Ravi.
The long shots.
Which part are you sick of?
I'm sick of all of it. I'm sick of. So listen.
So let me ask you this before you get going, because I'm
not gonna get going.
Seems like you're a little bit gonna get going.
I'm just over the pushback. It's force-fed down our throat, and it's not her fault. Like, when's the last time Caitlin Clark grabbed the mic and said something inflammatory?
Pretty much never.
Never!
The only thing people can point to that they don't like about her is her, like, she's very animated on the court. That's
care.
it.
And what I tell you from day one, don't care. Doesn't bother
But
me
I'm
at
saying
all.
that's the only thing people can even point to.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Nor should it.
Because guys get to be like that.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. Here's the dirty little secret news flash.
Mm-hmm.
If we're into this, and I don't listen, this isn't a moral stance. This is just matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in equality, and if they do this, then we should get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Then cover the sport the same, right? We see men do this all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Luka, LeBron.
But it happens in the
Draymond, pick
WNBA,
one.
and it is crammed down our throat.
So I think there's a couple things happening here.
It's incredible.
Number one,
it's draining.
I think people that never pay attention to the WNBA are paying attention to the WNBA now.
It's fine.
And now they don't know this about, right? So they don't know that it's a normal thing, right? So I think that's one. Two, I think there's a lot of jealousy there from the players that were not able to accomplish in the WNBA or in women's basketball in general.
So you think
Caitlin Clark has been.
Okay, that's fine. So you're saying in essence, like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Cheryl Swoops, they're jealous of Caitlin Clark.
Not them necessarily because they're not playing right now, but I think the people that are, or whoever's talking, right?
Kennedy Clark.
Yeah. So the people that are talking right now that are mad at Caitlin Clark, that are cheap shotting her or whatever, I think there's a level of jealousy there that she is the one, because they probably look at it and be like, okay, she's not that much better than me.
Did you watch the replay of the Kennedy Clark foul?
Yeah.
Was it egregious?
The decision was the contact wasn't.
Right. So the fact that
the decision to do it was egregious.
Because it was like super unnecessary.
It wasn't even pretend basketball.
It wasn't even, it wasn't like.
But it wasn't like violent.
At all. Like
it was stupid.
Yeah. 100%.
And incredibly unnecessary.
100%. How many times do you see that in an NBA game?
More than people realize.
Yeah. You ever watch guys shoot free throws?
Yeah. There's nonsense in there.
It is incredibly petty and childish.
Also,
what they do.
or inbounding a ball like in a tight situation,
yeah,
where people are like pulling on shorts and whatever.
But it happens in the WNBA, and we're like bent out of shape. And I'm like, you guys got to stop doing this. She has a highlight reel, just clips of unnecessary fouls on Caitlin Clark. What happened this weekend ranks about 6th.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, there's been worse for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
It's like,
but I think the reason it's happening is the jealousy.
Okay, let's say you're right. Why?
Because they're mad
that she's making the league money.
No, she's mad that they weren't the ones to be able to break through, because they probably think that they're better than she is. As WNBA players, they probably think that. So they're like, I think they go deeper into it and they go, okay. So especially, we talk about, I think there's a race component there too.
See, I don't.
I do a little bit.
You think I'm naive?
Yeah, a little bit. On this one, yeah.
So there were no Tarasis, no Birds, no Vandersloots. The best player in your league, maybe, if it's not Asia Wilson, is Brianna Stewart.
I understand that.
What are we? I'm not sure what to do with Kelsey Plum, but like,
I'm not either.
So like, what do we do? It's not like,
I don't think it's a strictly racial thing, and I really don't.
We're going to get back to that because not everything has to be race.
I agree.
It's what pisses me off.
I agree it doesn't have to be, but I do think there's a component here.
Let's talk about it.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, kicking off hour number 3 on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined now by Tony Barnhart. He's a columnist for TMG College Sports. He's also the author of the book The 19 of Green, which tells the story of integration in a small town in Georgia in their first integrated football team. Tony, how are you this morning?
All is good, guys. I just can't believe that June's here.
TB,
when I left Destin last week, everybody said, see you in Dallas. And oh, my goodness, SEC Media Days are in Dallas about a month and a half from now. Wow.
It's incredible because you just mentioned being in Destin, which is one of the reasons we wanted to grab you. But isn't it amazing how well, I'll ask you because you heard it and saw firsthand. How much do you think of what we heard in Destin will dominate what happens in Dallas in a month and a half that doesn't have to even do anything with being team specific for the SEC?
No, well, there's so many things that are hanging out there right now. Look, the two biggest stories in the SEC this year, or two biggest stories in college football this year, are the 12-team playoff. How's that going to look? How's that going to work? Because based on how that goes, some other decisions are going to be made because these are data points. And the other big story, I think, is Caitlin DeBoer at Alabama, replacing or sitting in the same chair as the greatest of all time. How is that going to work? And so there's a lot of great storylines going, but to me, those are the two biggest.
Tony, so let's get to what happened in Destin this past week, because SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey certainly started to cast a vision of what he thinks the future of college football might look like. He also seemed to be maybe positioning himself as the one to lead that into the future. It seemed almost like at least to me, like he was campaigning for whoever the future czar of college football is going to be. Is that how it came off kind of live in real time?
I don't know that he was campaigning for it, but what he has said is that we've reached the stage now where just some decisions have to be made. He said something really important when he met with us on Tuesday, and it's the fact that things don't get done in big rooms full of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You know, his point was they're great at having meetings and with a lot of people and a lot of discussion, but decision making has not been it's not been the forte of the NCAA, and we are at the decision making time. It's time to move on. What is it going to, is it going to be, how many bids is the SEC and the Big Ten going to get, and on and on. These decisions have to be. You basically got 1 year of the college football playoff to make the decisions that you got to, because they got to be in place by 2026, right, when the new contract kicks in. So it's going to be quite a year.
TB, it's interesting because I've been, like, full disclosure, like if you back this thing up like 3.5, 4 years, I've been on these airwaves locally, upset that I knew expansion was going to happen without any uniformity within the conference. Like it just seemed like, well, we're just kind of playing this game by ear, and whether it was 8 conference games versus 9, whether it was it bugged me from the jump. Then I really was set off by the fact they're in meetings a couple of months ago about the expansion, and they leave talking about a bigger group of playoff teams in the very same meeting. I'm like, see, I told you, no uniformity. Is it too late to unring the bell, or do you think with this talk of getting bigger and better, there will be some regulations on how the uniformity could look?
I don't know if we're going to get that kind of uniformity. The biggest decision we got coming up now, in my opinion, is the conference just want to go to a 14-team tournament. We hadn't even played 1 year.
That's unbelievable.
About going to 14 in 2026 because they figured. And I understand, guys, with the House case, with the settlement there, they got to go out and start finding some more revenue sources. Because they went, oh, by the way, you can pay the players up to $21, $22 million. Yeah, but what if you don't have $22 million? That's the problem, because almost nobody in big time college athletics is making money. Now there are some, Alabama, Georgia come to mind quickly, but they had to find revenue sources, and this thing may get to 14 in less than 2 years.
We're talking with Tony Barnhart. He covers college football. Tony, so as you're looking at that future landscape with, as you mentioned, not a lot of athletic departments have that $22 million that they're going to need. How do you see that playing out as they go search for more revenue? Is it as simple as like, hey, we're going to expand this playoff until everybody gets a little bit more money? Is it going to be, hey, we're going to start paring down some of the other athletic expenditures to try and save on that end? We heard Trev Alberts talk about, hey, it's not a revenue problem, it's a spending problem. Mm-hmm. Or do you think we're going to see what we've heard about Drew Weatherford and his private equity, and you see outside dollars start coming in trying to make some hay? Like which of those three scenarios do you think is most likely?
I think the most likely is generate more revenue. I don't know about the equity, private equity, if that's going to work. I got to do some more studying on that. But cutting costs is certainly got to be on the table. That's why the coaches went absolutely nuts when they started talking about reducing total roster size. Because right now you got 85 scholarships, maybe another 30 guys that are walk-ons to fill out your roster. What if you reduce that number? But they're going to definitely have to. How about putting logos on the field? Mm-hmm. That they've been resisting that forever. If they get the right price there, I just think they're going to. The impression that I got in Destin, everything is on the table. Mm-hmm. Everything is on the table, but sooner or later they're going to have to start making some decisions.
So it's interesting. How do you think we got here with if you're going to go to a revenue sharing model, TB, and you think you could get the numbers under control, why do you think revenue streams and where they would come from was so far down the list in terms of the order of operations? Wouldn't you think that would have been where you say, okay, hey, listen, we have these kinds of streams. These are our potential television partners. These are what the deals look like. Then it looks like this in terms of a CBA and a collective bargaining agreement. Then we have this to spend. Like, how did the order get so out of whack?
I don't know. It's a great question because it involves change, and these folks are reticent to change. They don't like change. But this change that's being court case is putting change upon them, and so we'll see. I think there are more revenue streams out there. They just got to go find them. They got to go agree on it. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Tony, as we get into this new world of whether it's 12 or 14 or however many teams we end up in a playoff, do you find it necessary that the Big Ten and SEC keep other conferences involved? Because we've heard a lot about, they're just going to break off and form their own super league or whatever. Is there value to bringing along, whether it be ACC and Big 12 teams or even group of 5 teams? Is there value to keeping them invited to the party?
I think there is. And you've got, like one coach, you got to have somebody to play. Okay. And I understand people talk about, one big division and do it that way. But I think there is a vested interest in keeping these hopes alive. But you understand the way things are set up, these conferences do know. If we're talking about the non-SEC, non-Big Ten conferences, they have to do what they have to do. Okay. If the SEC wants to do something, the SEC is going to do something. And I think everybody understands their roles. I think they'll be fine. The presidents in the ACC are not thrilled about the money, but I don't see where they have a whole lot of choice.
So can I get back? I'm going to get back to the academia portion of this too, right? Presidents on board, and obviously enrollment in colleges and getting students on campus is important. Can those two worlds coexist where you have the academia be on board with the revenues that are being generated through athletics, knowing we're trending towards maybe not having all of those athletics be under one umbrella? Do you think the presidents and the chancellors are aware of what could potentially be coming with their sports landscape?
Well, I can just tell you the presidents that I talk to are aware, and they understand the contributions that college athletics make, not only to the university but to the overall health of athletics as a whole. And so I think they are aware of it. Let's take a place like Georgia, where Jerry Moorhead's the president. There's a guy that's got a handle on what's going on at Georgia, and he embraces it. He understands, when done right, college athletics is a wonderful enterprise that helps the university. And I think it's like anything else, guys. People are going to struggle. We're going through a period right now of change, of radical change. But college athletics, particularly college football, has always been resilient, and it's figured out a way, and they're going to figure out a way this time.
Okay, so it's interesting. Is it on the table, or do discussions come up where you'll try to find multiple sports that can still thrive under this potential model? Or did you get the sense down in Destin that this was primarily about football and everything else would follow suit?
Well, I think it's primarily about football, but there are going to be some discussions. There are going to be some discussions about what to do with baseball. Baseball's got 11.7 scholarships that are spread out over a 25-man roster, something like that. And there's going to be a case to be made that there needs to be more scholarships in a sport like baseball. SEC only has 11 teams in the NCAA tournament. So to me, that will be fascinating. The only thing we do know, Title IX will be in full force. Be aware of that.
I'm glad you brought up Title IX because I think there's been discussions about how this works with the $22 million, and obviously that's subject to Title IX according to the settlement with House versus the NCAA. But that's going to be really hard to navigate if football is still included in that. Do you see a world in which football gets an exemption as not really included in that portion of the university? I know that's kind of what DB was talking about, where not all things may be under the purview of the president anymore.
Yeah, it is a decision, as an athletic director told me the other night, that they've got to deal with it being Title IX. And I don't know, that will not be a pretty fight.
So we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and then again last week. It just seems like the original intent of Title IX has morphed into something other than what it was in 1972, where it's not just about the opportunity. It's now, if they can, we can, in terms of sports that are on the table. Do we need to redefine what Title IX was originally brought in under? Do we need to go back and visit that umbrella from the 1972 ruling to move forward?
Well, good luck.
Do you understand why I asked the question?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm just telling you, nobody's on this issue. Nobody's going backwards. No scholarships are going to be cut on the women's side. The attitude's going to be, you guys got 85 scholarships in football, and yes, we know you generate the money, but this is not necessarily about money. It's about opportunity, and it's going to be. It will be quite a debate. Let's just put it that way.
So could you see? It's interesting. I'm so glad we got you, because we got into this knockdown drag out last week about, could you, if you're allowing opportunity, could you just cut sports and say, well, we can't really fund it, and if that's the case, we'll cut a male sport too, because that could be an unintended consequence of this whole deal that I just don't feel like we're talking about.
Might end up with super pared down athletic departments where it's football and then just the things that like maybe football, men's basketball, and baseball, and then just the things you need to counterbalance that from a Title IX standpoint. and then all of the Olympic sports just get
vanished
away.
Is that a thing? Am I just inventing? Like, could you see that happening?
I could see it being discussed. I can't see it happening. I'm just, again, I will repeat, everything is on the table.
Wow. So you've done this a lot. So good at this, Tony. Do you remember seeing something this big? Whether it's, disbanding the Southwestern whatever on the landscape of college football that seems so big yet is so fluid in its decision making.
Right. It's been an amazing thing to watch. And again, some decisions, some hard decisions. As one athletic director told me, he says, look, we've been putting off some really tough decisions for a long, long time, and we can't put them off anymore. He didn't give me any specifics. That's just what he told me. So.
It seems like they've almost done themselves a disservice by doing that, because, like, am I wrong to think if they had gotten out in front of those tough decisions, then we're in a much more defined spot right now?
If they had gotten ahead in the O'Bannon case, they'd be in a completely different situation right now.
All right, this is one of the.
Yeah, that's just a fact. They went to court and they got their hat handed to them, and since then, it's been lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And do they get an antitrust exemption? That's what they want. That's what they're lobbying for. Are they going to get one? If they don't, it's going to be difficult.
We have a couple of, actually, we have a lot of lawyers that listen to the show, and I want to describe myself as an emotional wreck here, TB, but I had a meltdown a couple of weeks ago over that very thing. I said, you had 20 years to get the Ed O'Bannon thing right. And if you're going to tell me that we panicked over the NIL deal and having to work from behind, it is absolutely inexcusable if it disintegrates college athletics, because I likened it to getting bills in the mail that you don't open, yet you still know, like they're there. Like, we can't just not open the mail. I don't understand why nobody was more proactive during the O'Bannon case.
It's a fair question, and I don't think it's just the NCAA and its arrogance thought they could take the fight and win. Guess they were wrong.
Is that all it was? It was just like they just didn't realize the position they were in?
They thought this was something that's necessary. This control is necessary to the long-term good of college athletics. And the courts basically looked at them and go, guys, we're looking at the law. Okay, we're not looking at what's good for you. We're looking at the law. And the law says you got to do 9-0. Supreme Court doesn't do anything.
It seemed like a fairly easy argument that you need to let me own my name. Like, there's a reason it's on my birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's mine.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, goodness.
So the NCAA is the only people in the world that didn't. I don't think the Supreme Court can get a lunch order 9-0. Tony, as we get into the summer, and like you said, we're about a month and a half away from media days, whether it's SEC or DB and I will be out in Indy for Big Ten media days. Like, what other storylines? I know that this has dominated, right? This whole, House versus NCAA, the paying the players, like all of this. I mean, we just kind of flew under the radar that people can basically transfer indiscriminately now with no.
Well, you got a couple of new members. I want to know how that you feel like they'll be treated.
Welcome to the conference. By the way, it's going to be interesting to see some of these early games. What I tell my friends from Texas and Oklahoma, they say, well, we can compete with the Alabamas of the world. I said, I know that. The problem is not competing with Alabama. It's playing Alabama this week and Georgia next week and LSU the next week and Ole Miss the next week and Texas A&M the next week. That's the issue playing in the SEC. It is a gauntlet, and it is real difficult. And it's going to be fun to watch. It really is.
So Tony, when you take a look at, was talking with the great Tony Barnhart, do you look at when teams make that transition? how are you best built? Is it depth? Is it high-end talent? Is it the strategic scheduling? Like, what are some of the components?
all the above.
that and above.
Is it quarterback
It is
play? Like, I'm just
had a coach. Yeah, no, I had a coach tell me I said it's a line of scrimmage league. Yeah, he said it's a line of scrimmage league and it's a depth league. You got to win the line of scrimmage, but if you don't have the depth to survive November when the injuries pile up, that's when schools get in trouble. You have to have. Used to be in the SEC, you could have good quarterback play with excellent defense, and that was enough. No, sir. You must have elite quarterback play to win the Southeastern Conference. That's why teams like Georgia and Carson Beck are rated so high. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Tony, I'm glad you brought up the quarterbacks because it wasn't that long ago where the quarterback play in the SEC wasn't that good. I mean, we're talking like 10, 15 years ago where
you remember Stoops' shout out. He was like, "Oh, it's amazing when you get good quarterbacks. The SEC defense isn't as dominant."
Like I remember, I remember watching, LSU teams that couldn't find a quarterback to save their lives. I'm watching guys that from Alabama win national championships and then they can't get drafted. Like, what is it? Putting too fine a point on it to say that like Lane Kiffin, when he went to Alabama, started changing all of that, or like, why did that change?
That changed because I sat in Nick Saban's office, and every year I'd ask him the same question. In the spring, I would say, okay, what's next? Because Saban always worked about 2 steps ahead of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what's next? And I can't remember what year it was. I said, what's next? He said, we got to start scoring more points. I went, really? He said, yeah. And not long after that conversation, Lane Kiffin showed up and changed the SEC forever. Hey guys, I really apologize. I've got some duties, and Mrs. Barnhart's calling me, and I apologize for running.
You're good. We're up against it anyway, Tony.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it a lot, and it'll be a fun year. Call me back.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
That's Tony Barnhart. We appreciate his time.
Right on time, too.
Yeah, almost perfect there. You can follow him at Twitter at Mr. CFB. He's a columnist for TMG College Sports. And also, just a reminder, The 19 of Green is the name of his book about the integration of a small-town Georgia football team.
I'm not as crazy.
I'm not crazy, right? Like Lane Kiffin changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what he's saying. Nor am I crazy 5 years ago when I told you guys vehemently, pre-COVID, 18-19, at least wait till the television deal's up, get some uniformity. This is not going to go the way that we want it to. That's not even revisionist history.
No, that's true. I remember that. I remember having those conversations.
I was livid. I also wanted to redefine Title IX. It had gotten away from us.
One thing that I know has gotten away from the NCAA is basically every decision they've ever made. So this is just like a public service announcement. Either like whatever you're putting off, whether it's going to the doctor, whether it's opening those bills, just go ahead and do those because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, get that up.
Like just go ahead and have the hard conversations now, right? Don't ask your spouse after you get married whether you want kids or not. Have that conversation before you buy the ring. Okay.
I hear they're a tough hang.
They are an incredibly tough hang.
That would have saved me a lot of bad decisions.
It certainly would. Have the hard conversations.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I did that on purpose.
Oh, man. You were doing so well. Now you're like 0 for your last 3.
Go ahead. You can bring the show back. That's fine.
Oh, welcome back. We're live from Pillar Exterior Studio Stage.
I didn't really do it on purpose.
That's my main.
I mean,
Ravi,
I need 3 arms.
I'm ODB. This is what I used to do when I used to bring us in and out. But Ravi's a control freak, so those days are over.
We're brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure you get out to the casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha. You can go to the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Let's keep your money on this side of the river.
Is there an over-under on when I get the mics turned on and off?
No, because I would.
Why do you shoot your shot so early?
With what?
That's like you going to
No, I waited. Right now, I waited.
And you're like, I'm going to take.
That's why I'm mad about.
Like Evansville today?
That's why I'm mad about this one, because I waited on it. I was like, okay, we're good.
Are you mad?
Plenty of time.
Are you mad?
Ready. And then nothing. That's okay, though. You got to go get something out at Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure it's pretty much every major sporting event you can bet on. I know DB had those Panthers a while ago.
Florida.
I'm rooting for Edmonton, but I don't know if I would bet on Edmonton. I don't know. We'll see.
They may be the fave.
No, I believe Florida is.
Are you sure?
I think I saw already. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I would assume Florida's the fave.
I thought Florida was, but I don't remember.
They're the more complete team, but they could be catching Ed Mountain.
Also have
at the right time.
NBA Finals starting on Thursday. You got that you can bet on as well. Dallas versus Boston.
How about the layoff?
I hate that. We can get to that
later.
later.
Such a long time. The Panthers, slight fade, -135.
Yeah, that's great.
Whatever you're trying
Last
to do.
5 years, we've got to have a Florida team in from the Eastern Conference.
Get over to Warhorse Sportsbook. I'm just going to pretend like he's not speaking.
I'm just saying.
If you got any questions.
I'm just tired of the Florida teams being in.
Can I finish my read, Shane? Is that all right? We like our friends at Warhorse. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you mad?
You can go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook for a full list of house details and rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. No, I just like to treat our friends well. I know that's not something you're familiar with, but
I don't have any friends.
It's because you're not nice to them, Shane.
Oh,
not nice to him. Just like the WNBA is not being nice to Caitlin Clark right now.
I don't get it.
What part don't you get?
There's lots. Like number one. Okay, let's say.
So hold on. Let me set this first, because I need a frame of reference because you watch more WNBA than I do.
I just don't think that you're eventually probably going to get to race, I'm sure. But I'm just telling you, if you're mad at this person and there's some jealousy because she's elevating eyeballs and generating revenue because she's white, there have been several other good non-African American players in the WNBA for 20 some odd years.
I'm going to get to that. Okay, I will.
So, but here's the other thing.
Okay.
So I also don't like the fact, because people you and Joel are going to call this gatekeeping. I get it. Not a lot of people have watched the WNBA historically before Caitlin Clark. But what happened to her this weekend was not.
So that was going to be my question.
Was not super egregious. It was unnecessary, but it wasn't violent. So the ire that it drew, I'm like, okay, I feel like we're mixing both worlds here.
So that's where I wanted reference for, right? Because you watch way more WNBA than I do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get a frame of reference for how out of.
Elena Delle Donne has been getting crushed for years. And she's arguably the best player in the league before Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson started doing their thing. But
right. So so to you, the way Caitlin Clark being treated is not really out of the norm.
I've seen really, really good players have had things done like that to them. Now, but hear my heart. I'm not mad at Caitlin Clark for that. I'm mad at the cheapening of the sport because of Caitlin Clark. Because it's the whole thing that I said in the beginning. She's never said. I haven't heard her say anything inflammatory ever.
No,
and she's never bothered me.
Not that wasn't AI generated, at least. Those AI press conference videos are out of pocket.
They are funny.
They're nuts.
They are funny.
Those and the Luca ones.
You sent me
that one.
I just. We're what's going to say exacerbating. We're making the problem worse. So yeah, that by playing into it from a media standpoint. I think if you want to get away from it, you have to reframe the starting point.
Can I make an argument here?
Well, that's kind of what you do.
It's almost all I do. So let's say that it's not terribly out of the norm for the WNBA. That's what you're telling me, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that the new eyeballs are shedding light on something that needed to get fixed?
Yeah. No. It's possible that the new eyeballs are shedding something on a protected commodity because they're not used to it. So it's blown out of proportion, right? If you watch,
so you don't have a problem with the way the WNBA operates in general.
No, I would like a little bit more free-flowing game.
Right. So maybe that's kind of what I mean. Like if the new eyeballs are like, hey, why is this happening?
Look at the context in which it happened.
Yeah.
It was incredibly stupid because it didn't have anything to do with
anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
It was just
like, hey, I'm just going to run into you for no reason at all.
I'm just going to be petty.
Yeah.
Right. stuff we see a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you brought somebody that was uber talented into Hurrdat Sports, if you knew that Bill and Chris and the team could land DB, no, a revenue generator that's going to garner more ears.
Let's say Scott Van Pelt is looking for a new job.
You mad about that?
Absolutely not.
See, that's what I don't get. And I don't care if she's white, black, green. Like, what difference does it make, especially when you have Sabrina Ionescu?
So let me play this out for you.
You have Brianna Stewart. You have Vandersloot.
Let me lay out the argument.
You got Plum, who, by the way, people used to call her the Puerto Rican princess. She's not even Puerto Rican. She's white. She's an Irish American. Okay. So for other people, it's cool, but Caitlin Clark can't just be white.
So let me ask you the question here, okay? Because I don't think it's just a racial thing. I think it's a general demographics thing.
Now, keep in mind, this would drive me crazy with just about any other thing too. I don't care if it's the only black.
100%.
Yeah, it's just
here's my.
We need to grow up.
Here's my point, though. Okay, so and this has been brought up a lot. But people are like, okay, so she is a white straight female, which is not the norm in the WNBA.
I don't have data,
but that's what we're being told.
I get the perception. Yeah,
that's the perception.
I don't have data on that.
That I don't either, right? I'm not going to ask. So, but like that's the perception, and that's kind of where people think that this comes from. And so, I think there is a long history in U.S. pop culture, and other things really, but especially in pop culture, of the first person who mainstreams a product or a sport or a music genre or whatever has to be presentable into the general public, or palatable is a better word, palatable to the general public in a way that maybe other people weren't. Now, does that mean that person is different or special or anything? Not necessarily, although sometimes it does.
So they have to be marketable? Is that code for marketable?
Not just entire, like there's almost a more visceral reaction to, because like there's been people that I think are marketable that for whatever reason the public just doesn't react the way, like doesn't react logically to, for whatever reason. And so I think you're looking at Caitlin Clark
as Mahomes.
See, I feel like he shouldn't be marketable, but he kind of is.
I feel like people unnecessarily criticize Mahomes because
now they do. Yeah,
he's been so marketable.
Yeah. I mean, you got the pushback with Curry. You got the pushback with
Steph Curry's a good one.
Yeah, with a lot of people, right? But they also weren't bringing a new sport to people or bringing a new thing to people.
There's LeBron fatigue. I mean, people still say he saved the league post Jordan.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. But Jordan's a good example, right? What was the narrative about the NBA in the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s, before Jordan came along? It was too black, too gangster, too whatever, right? And then Jordan, even though he's a black man, he was a black man that was palatable to other segments of the culture, right? That didn't really say anything about Jordan necessarily. It said maybe more about what the culture was ready for. So that doesn't mean that like Sabrina Ionescu or Brianna Stewart or Sue Bird or whoever wasn't good enough, wasn't palatable enough. But if the public's not ready for that thing, then it doesn't really matter what the person
Brianna
is.
Stewart is arguably the best player in the
I
WNBA.
understand that. I get that. For whatever reason, the public wasn't ready for the WNBA at that point.
Out of breath, Brian, stay right there. This I got to hear. We'll be back. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio with my main man, Ravi Lulla.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back.
Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark. Caitlin.
And here is Caitlin Clark and the crowd already standing.
It is what it is. You know, I feel like I'm just at the point where you accept it and don't retaliate. Like, you know, just let them hit you.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Joining us now on the Hurrdat Hotline is
I know when my somebody needs to buy that. I think I'm gonna go sell that.
The
today.
hotline.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Out of breath, Brian. What's going on, bud?
Hey, fellas, I just wanted to touch on that Caitlin Clark subject, and you kind of hit it on it towards the end, Ravi, and that's go out on a commercial. That point is kind of sicking me. I thought that her talent of shooting threes would have been enough to make her marketable, to draw eyes, but I thought it was low ball and dirty for the media to try to use the same thing the NBA had with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson that drew eyes to the NBA.
A rivalry?
And which is that the rivalry between which had to do with color lines. And I think that's sickening. They could have just used her talent. And that kind of turned me off from even just watching it, listening to the negativity, because I think it's false and made up and really didn't need to put that little dynamic in. And I really thought that we advanced at the society past that at least.
100%.
But
you would hope so for sure. And the ironic thing, Brian, is that wasn't even the part of Bird and Magic that was appealing. It was just the fact that they were incredible, right? Like that.
Yes.
Larry Bird could have been any color. Like Magic Johnson could have been any color, and it would have been still incredible.
Don't disrespect Larry Bird as a Laker fan. I hate the disrespect for the man being as great as he is. Don't matter what color he is. I just think if you guys go, I think it was sickening to get that from the media. That's just my opinion.
I just wish, and I don't dislike Angel Reese. I certainly don't. I don't cheer for her, but if her skills evolve enough, maybe you could get a rivalry. But outside of that, it's the LSU Iowa thing.
Yeah.
It isn't their skill set. At least Bird and Magic are like
equals,
top 10 of all time on everybody with a pulse list,
they were
right?
equals.
Like Angel Reese isn't Caitlin Clark yet.
No, that they try to use it ever since Caitlin Clark did the same thing I've seen Tim Thomas do every time he made a 3-pointer. I didn't see what the big old deal was.
See, that's what I'm saying. What she does is not her, if you want to call them antics or her delivery, that's not. Just say, hey, we're not used to women doing this, or maybe it's because she's not African American that we're not used to doing this, because we've seen demonstrative behavior before. We're just so shallow. It's like, well, if they're black, they're showing off. If they're white, they're confident. I'm like, why can't they just be treated like they're doing their sport? Yes, they're doing their sport.
Let's not act like it's any different in anywhere else in the world, right? Because we deal with this all the time. If you've got a woman in a position of power that's passionate about something, she's emotional, right? You have a man in that same position, he's convicted and he's passionate about what he does, right?
That might be a good point.
Like this isn't exclusive to basketball or to sports or anything. There's a segment of society that doesn't like or is uncomfortable or not used to seeing women act a certain way. So all of a sudden, okay, if a woman's a tough boss, we throw out the B word, right? If a man's a tough boss, we go, oh man, great leader, right? Like, what's the difference except for we don't like it coming from a certain angle?
See,
the difference is people, we need to look at what we taught from day one society.
We need
that's
to
all.
be
That's
better.
a bigger issue.
I agree.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. B. I appreciate that. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not Caitlin Clark's fault.
No, 100% it's not.
And we just keep feeding into it, and it's exhausting. Like, is this going to be every game? Is this going to be every, like, just embrace it and grow. And I don't mean like super myopic, like kumbaya s'mores. She's really, really good.
Super talented.
She's good for your league. She's a revenue generator. Don't do the drive-bys and make this something other than what it is, because you haven't embraced the sport.
But let me because I'm more interested about why she's in this position, right? Because you're right, she's not the first really great basketball player in the WNBA. She's not even the first really great white basketball player in the WNBA. But I think when we've got people in whatever industry, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whatever, that are kind of the person to mainstream a product, then a lot of times there is resentment from the people that were already there, right? Like, I obviously wasn't there, but Jackie Robinson wasn't the best black baseball player in the 40s.
No, I agree.
But he was the one.
He was not Josh Gibson.
No, he wasn't. But he was the one that was chosen to break the barrier, handpicked by Branch Rickey and whoever else, because of his palatability to the general public.
So
do you think
we're okay with are you saying, like, if Elena Deladon and Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi had boyfriends or husbands,
No, my point is, do you think other players in the 40s that were better than Jackie Robinson resented him for the opportunity he got, even though they were better?
I'm going to entertain the question before I spoil your fun.
Okay.
Yes, I think there was resentment. I do. But the more you know now, and the more of you, the reason why I don't love that example is because there have been several before Caitlin Clark to give you a chance to get acclimated.
But the culture wasn't ready. That's an us being better thing.
Yeah.
The culture wasn't ready.
You know what I mean?
No, I do.
So the isolated,
but I think that's why there's
context
so
of your
much
point, I get.
But I think that's why
I don't love the analogy.
I think that's why there's so much resentment towards Caitlin Clark, because there have been several that are like, well, okay, I could have elevated the league. I was better than this. I was this good.
You're of your descent. I'm of mine. Are we mad at Scott Pelt if he comes?
SVP? No.
Why?
Because he's good at what he does. He elevates the brand.
It ain't just because we're smarter. It's something else. Like what is it?
I don't know, but there's part of it, and this is probably from. Well, that's not. I was gonna say I understand he's better than I am, but I'm an egomaniac, so I probably don't.
And I don't think I think there's probably 40% of that WNBA that doesn't think Caitlin Clark is better than them. So maybe that's.
I do think there is I don't like, especially from the players you talked about that are still playing, that are really, really high level players that look at, okay, she's a rookie. She hasn't done anything in our league yet. We were all great in college. Like, why is she the one
to elevate the league?
Right? This league's been good for, like, it's
there's always a line somewhere. There's always that starting line.
Yeah, there's a breakthrough point,
There's
right?
always a breakthrough point.
And people on one side of the breakthrough point are often resentful of the person that finally breaks through. I mean, like there were, do you ever wonder?
So wait.
About like.
So do you think Trout is envious of Ohtani?
I mean, Ohtani's because of the pitching thing, sort of a whole different beast.
But wait a minute though. So the eyeballs, the national appeal, because of Shohei Ohtani being physically gets very similar, at least offensively.
Offensively similar, yeah.
To Mike Trout, but Mike Trout not wanting to be you think Mike Trout looks at Ohtani and is like, oh man, like,
well, I think
hey, Detmers, run one up under this guy's chin when we play them.
I think there's a couple things at play there.
Do you know what I mean?
I do, and I do know what you mean, but I think there's a couple things at play there. One, not every great player has the mindset of they want to be that person. Right. I never got the sense, and I don't know Mike Trout, never got the sense Mike Trout was super interested in being the face of the league.
You think so? You think like Kennedy Clark conceivably thinks she should be?
Yes. I think there's other people. I think there's people that I think usually where the resentment comes from is that should be me. And if Mike Trout doesn't think that, and like I said, I don't know. The other issue here is baseball already sort of exists in a more established plane. I get it's fallen off, but it's not. Like the WNBA is emerging in a way that Major League Baseball is not. And so women's sports in general are emerging in a way that Major League Baseball is not. But here's another example. Maybe it's a better one. Maybe it's a worse one. I don't know. We'll give you a chance. Do you think there were musical artists in the 50s that were resentful that Elvis Presley was the one that broke through?
Yeah.
Because they didn't look like him.
I don't love, you know why I don't love the analogy?
Why is that?
Because Caitlin Clark didn't steal or take anything from anybody. Her game is her own. If Elvis Presley would have been his own guy and not had all the copyright like
sure.
And I do applaud. It's easy for me to just poke holes at your examples because you're coming up with them off the fly.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to like maybe spend some.
There's nuance in these that don't apply.
You know what I mean?
No, 100%. But here's the reason I brought up Elvis, right? Because there were several black artists that were as good, better, did the exact same things that Elvis did, right? Elvis was the palatable package for the public.
Again, but the cultural level of acceptance was on a much different scale.
Sure. But, I mean, there's not going to be a perfect analogy, right? Like, there's going to be some variables that are different regardless.
If you ask me, does Breanna Stewart think that she should be Caitlin Clark? I'm listening.
Right.
Multi-time MVP.
Do you think Little
Best
Richard,
player in the league?
Do you think Little Richard thought he should have been Elvis Presley? Because that's the question you're asking. Do you think Josh Gibson thought he should have been Jackie Robinson? That's the question we're asking. I think the answer is theoretically yes. And if the answer is yet, really easy to see where the resentment comes from.
Yeah.
Because there's no rhyme or reason,
like
really.
The Liberty beat Indiana by 40.
Yeah, they beat the brakes off of them. But there's no rhyme or reason, really. Like, yes, Caitlin Clark has to be really good for this to matter. But there's no rhyme or reason, really, that Breanna Stewart wasn't, except for culturally, we just decided we're ready for women's basketball. Is that a good reason? No.
Just a handful of years removed from Breanna.
That's where we are now.
Okay.
Like,
I'll entertain it.
There's been better Nebraska volleyball teams than the one that sold out Memorial Stadium.
I just don't
but here we are.
The manufactured Amos, because
I think publicly it might be manufactured. I think within the league there is some real resentment. We'll be back tomorrow. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.